Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday the 14th of November 2025. I'm CareyHolzman with another review for you today, this time a 17.3-inch light gaming laptop from our friends over at Nimo. And we're about 2 weeks away from the big American Thanksgiving holiday here, which is followed by the famous Black Friday and then Cyber Monday, big shopping days. And I'm already seeing companies starting to offer Black Friday deals right now. So we're going to talk about one of those today. Now, what I like to do in these videos is to not really have any preparation with regards to what we're looking at, because that's just not the way it works in business. When customers call me and they say, hey, I'm having a problem with this computer I just bought, that's oftentimes the first time I've ever talked to that customer. I've never talked to that customer ever in my life. I know nothing about them, nothing about the laptop, nothing about the problem. And so it kind of starts out with, you know, what's your name and what is the equipment you have? And I need like a make and a model number. And then from there, we can go forward to the discovery process to figure out what's the best course of action to take for this customer. And so that's how the business works. Now, if you're lucky enough, I want to say lucky, if you work for a corporation, you'll probably be seeing a lot of the same equipment over and over and over again, as corporations tend to buy hundreds or thousands of pieces of computer equipment from particular vendors at any given time. So when you work in an IT department in a big company, you're going to get real familiar with specific makes and models and brands. But when you work as a field service technician, as I do, a lot of times you never provided that customer with that computer. You've never seen that computer ever before. First time. You may never ever see it again. Regardless of that, you're expected to get the problem resolved, or the way I see it, don't charge the customer because you didn't fix anything. There are a lot of places that'll charge diagnostic fees and things like that. I don't run my business that way. If I can't fix it, you shouldn't have to pay me for my time learning. So if I have to spend time learning in order to fix it, then I have to do a calculation in my head, which is, if I knew what I was doing, had I been familiar with this particular issue or this particular model of machine, how long should it have taken me? And usually it's a 1 hour minimum. And that's how I run my business. Those are the morals and ethics that I run my business by. And sometimes customers, they'll call me and say, hey, I'm looking at getting a new laptop. What do you recommend? It's like recommending a car. There's so many different reasons behind why people buy bigger, smaller, lighter, larger, heavier, better battery life, gaming, higher resolution. So many varieties of laptops, in the same way that you can buy a two-seater sports car, a hybrid, you could buy a sedan, you can buy an SUV or a Jeep or a truck. I mean, this goes on and on and on. A minivan. We can be here all day talking about all the different makes and models of cars. And depending on what your individual needs are, right, is when, depending on how well I know you, if I can make a recommendation. But in a lot of cases, it's really about what are you going to use the laptop for, or the computer, and how much is your budget? And those are the first two places we start. Because you can tell me what you want all day. That's all well and good. We all want. What can you afford? What's your budget on this? And then based on that, we get down to reality. We get down to being reasonable and get to the nitty gritty, so we can get something accomplished sooner rather than later. Not sitting here daydreaming about, wouldn't it be nice if I owned a Rolls Royce? Can you afford that? No. Okay, well, let's, can we do something more productive, like put our thoughts and efforts into what's really attainable for you and what it is you really need, or what you can have versus what it is you want. So when it comes down to things like computers and laptops, especially when dealing with home users, they don't know what they need. And quite often they don't know what they want. So in those cases, we start with a budget. Okay, how much do you have to spend? Now, consumers more likely than not have very little to spend compared to, say, a company that's going to buy 100 or 1,000 units. It's not even the same in any way, shape, or form, because they have to figure out total cost of ownership times the number of units they're buying based on availability, when they can get them, what sort of warranty and support. There's a whole lot that goes into making those large purchasing decisions. But we do our best to help guide clients to the best solution for each individual client. And I cannot stress highly enough how few people will ever talk about their budget until they're asked, and it's usually the place you got to start. And there's a lot of variety when it comes to how much does a laptop cost? Well, are you talking about a new laptop? Yeah, let's say a new laptop. Well, we're talking about a 13-inch laptop, a 15-inch laptop, a 17-inch laptop, a light and portable laptop, a laptop with a longer battery life, a laptop with a longer warranty, a laptop with a touch screen. I mean, we can go on and on and on. It's like all the features on a car. Once you've whittled down, okay, I want a minivan, great. Now, what color do you want? Do you want cruise control? Do you want garage door opener built in? Do you want reverse camera? Do you want, and on and on and on. Do you want it hybrid, etc.? And so, unfortunately, in this line of work, that doesn't really make you any money. So you don't see a whole lot of this sort of consultancy happening outside of businesses anymore. It's usually one family member or friend telling or advising another family member or friend. And it's sort of the blind leading the blind. And then something happens, and it could be right out of the box, or it could be months later, where suddenly I get a phone call and they have a problem they want me to resolve. And again, I don't know anything about this. I didn't even know they existed on the planet. So we got to start out with, who are you? How can I help you today? And we got to look up which laptop or computer they have and what the problem is in order to determine, is this a BIOS update issue, a Windows update issue, a hardware issue, a plug not being in all the way? Is this a, end user education issue? And when I do these reviews, I try and mimic what the reality is for me and for anybody who does field service tech work, which is look at it for the very first time and evaluate it. There's been times where I've gone to clients' locations and I'm like, are you still in your return period? Because I would just send this back, whatever it is, right? And if they're like, no, I can't return it now, it's like, well, we'll do the best we can with it, but unfortunately, the decision you made isn't ideal for what it was you were expecting. And so we cannot wave a magic wand and suddenly make this, in this kind of a scenario, we can't make it what you wanted. The best thing would be to return it and get something more appropriate. And they probably bought it because it was cheaper and they didn't really think about the consequences. That's the same old story over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Anything else than that, it does happen where somebody says, oh, I got the right machine, I spent a lot of money, but that's not the normal. But it does happen. It's nowhere near as frequent. And, spending more money doesn't always necessarily mean that's a good idea either, especially if they bought something that's really over the top and then they barely ever use it for anything other than checking email. It's not necessarily hurting anything, but sometimes those machines require more maintenance. They can be louder, they can bring in more dust and debris and require them being dusted out more frequently, or they start having overheating issues. And I've seen that too, but it's very infrequent compared to the other. So when you think about what the normal day is like for me as a field service technician, when folks that make budget machines, especially like laptops, are giving them a twice as long warranty than most others, charging less and assembling them, at least partially here in the United States, I want to know more about them, because that definitely fits the bill for the vast majority of clients that I deal with on a day-to-day basis with regards to their interests. And so I was introduced to this company called Nimo that I have right here in front of me. You see the fish there? And they make a wide variety of laptops of different screen sizes and budgets and memory and storage, or even bare bones, which is relatively unheard of in this space, where you put in your own RAM and your own storage. This has become critical because what I'm about to show you are the prices of RAM and storage today. There's this industry, it has ebbs and flows. Just as we know the tide is going to come in with the ocean, and we know the tide is going to recede, this is what happens with computer components. We just can't predict when it's going to happen. What I can tell you is that, much like the cost of gasoline, the price fluctuates. And usually it doesn't fluctuate by much, but week after week after week. And if you're only buying a computer, let's say once every few years, the last time you bought a computer, the price will have fluctuated a lot in the last few years compared to your last experience. But sometimes in the industry, we run into things where it's out of our control. So for example, there were floods in, I think it was Vietnam, that disabled many of the factories that made mechanical hard drives in the days before solid state drives. And there was a massive shortage on hard drives until those factories got up and running. If we look more recently at things, the cryptocurrency mining phase that we went through right around the pandemic, just before the pandemic, where you couldn't really get your hands on a GPU. And then we move into the tariffs, and nothing you can do about it. That affects the prices as well. The pandemic itself, with regards to supply chains, not being able to get the equipment, that affected prices. And just as it all starts to settle back in, now AI is buying up all the SSDs and storage or memory that they can buy, which means there's not just that one thing. Some manufacturers have cut back production for various reasons. And now there's not enough memory and storage to go around. And the results are prices 30 to 70% higher than they were just a few months ago. So when I mention this as bare bones, or you can buy this as a bare bones version, if you already have the memory or the storage, you can save a lot of money because you're looking at about twice the price at this point right now for each of those items. And they make up a significant portion of the cost of a computer. And no manufacturer is immune from this. So I'm about to show you some prices here, and prepare to be ready for this because it's affecting everybody across the board. The good news is, what I'm seeing from folks like Nimo is they're still making the best out of it. What are you going to do? So the price went up. Are you going to just shut the business down and say, too bad, if we can't sell it at this price we used to sell it at, we're just not going to sell? Everybody go home and find new jobs that work here? You just go, look, this is what it is. We'll deal with it. Eventually, and who can say when? It's like gambling in the stock market. Is that stock going up or down? These prices may get worse. These prices will eventually get better, given enough time. I don't know how much time. I didn't know how long it was going to take for the cryptocurrency mining craze to end. I didn't know how long it was going to take for the supply chain issues during the pandemic to get resolved. I didn't know what the effect of the tariffs were. I didn't know. We don't know. All right. But if you're going to buy right now, then you're buying at current market price. There's a place down the street. They're a fish market. They sell fresh fish in the desert. And a lot of the fish doesn't have a price. When you look down, it says market price. I've been to some restaurants, I think even Red Lobster. You say, how much is the lobster? It's market price. What does that mean? It means depending on the fisherman's loads, depending on the demands, supply and demand, we don't know what the price is going to be. We can't predict it. You have to ask your server. It's like wanting to predict what the soup of the day is. It changes every day, depends on what's available. You got to ask your server. So right now, we are dealing with a industry-wide storage and RAM shortage. Okay, nothing we can do about it. You wait it out, it will eventually go back, but that could be 6 months, it could be 6 years, I have no idea. So I just want to put that out there. Let me say hello to everybody joining us here in the chat room. A shout out to our good friend Buster, Peter Laycock with an Amazon gift card in lieu of Super Chat prior to the show starting, as well as our friend in Northern Ireland, Mark Gaines, also sending an Amazon gift card in lieu of Super Chat. And Gregory Howard renews his membership, now a member for 26 months. Hello, Carey and Mara and all in chat. Been away for a while, but I'm back. I'm turning 75 this month. Hope all is well. Well, happy early birthday, Gregory. Good to see you. Thank you for renewing your membership. 3D Everything also renews membership, now a member for 42 months. That's a long time. Thank you to 3D Everything. And let's give a shout out to Montana joining us here in the chat. Gregory's asking Buster how the train PC's been running, because he says his coffee maker's running great. New people to this channel like, what's a train PC and a coffee maker? What does that got to do with PC? Yeah, the computers that look like a train and a computer that looks like a coffee maker. We have some really unique builds here. Lana Dro says hello. Eddie Casanova joining us along with John Rogers and Scott. David Herzog and Michael Lavelle. Gary Tatum, Gary Bickle, Richard DeFries, and Brian Weber all joining us here in the chat. Peter Laycock, our friend Buster, says it is 43 degrees Fahrenheit or 6.1 degrees Celsius in Edinburgh, Bonnie, Scotland. Thank you, Buster. Starting to feel like wintertime over there, huh? Andy joins us along with Jonathan Fells. And Supreme Nerd says hello. Mats Olof joins us from Sweden. Dan Nilsson saying hello. I also see, if I can get my mouse to work. Come on now. There we go. Thomas MacT says hello. John Downey joins us. He says big organizations buy Dell because they just work. Well, but they're, so I've worked a number of big organizations, and I can tell you that a lot of them don't buy Dells. A lot of them these days are buying Lenovo more than I'm seeing anything else. And I also see quite a few with HP. So I wouldn't say that Dell's any bigger than those other two, but if you're going to work in a larger organization, Dell, HP, and Lenovo are likely going to be the three big ones you see most often, for sure. I think Dell and HP is like comparing Coke and Pepsi. It's a Ford and Chevy. Their sales year after year, one will do slightly better than the other each quarter. It's a neck and neck race, and Lenovo's falls right in there, like in the third position. But if they sell 300 million PCs, these big makers, then 100 million's Dell, 100 million's HP, and about 90 million is Lenovo. That'll give you an idea, at least the numbers. So these are massive numbers we're talking about. Essentially somewhere around each manufacturer producing, I'm going to say, what would that be, about 2 million pieces? No, yeah. 2 million PCs a month? It's really hard to figure these numbers out. They're staggeringly large, but you can use Google to see how many units Dell has shipped and how many units HP has shipped and how many units Lenovo has shipped. Just put whatever year you want to get those annual numbers. It's mind-boggling that they do that year after year after year. Doman 2000 says hello. There's Dazzle 555. Luke Greenia joining us from Vermont. Ben Laird from Scotland saying hello. Gregory Howard says he's liking the Nimo N173B. What do we have today? It's a 173, isn't it? I think the B is just the color. This is an N173G, so is that green? I don't know. gray? We'll find out when we open it here in a minute. When I open this, it'll be the first time it's ever been taken out of the box. We're going to experience this unboxing together. We'll discover. You're going to join me virtually as we have a new experience together. That's my goal here today. Tony Aindow says hello. Dustin Fuller saying hello. There's Charlie Purdy saying hello. Good to see you, Charlie. Along with John Williams. Jason Thomas. Ron Barnish renews membership, now a member for 39 months. Thank you, Ron. Good to see you, my friend. So before we get started today, I want to remind you all that, especially if you order something bare bones, if you need a Windows license, there's a lot of shady sellers online with Microsoft licenses. And there was a way that you could bypass Windows activation with a hack. And Microsoft has shut that down. So you knew that was coming. I've always warned you guys of consequences. I always tell you, if you're going to cheat, if you're going to cut corners, you might think you got away with it for a while, but it'll always come back, always. And the amount of time and effort you want to spend and you've already spent, you're just going to have to throw all that away as if it was all just flushed down the toilet and start all over again. So if you buy a legitimate product key, you don't have to spend a lot of money. And they're on sale, of course. And they're guaranteed and supported for 6 months if you have any problems with the installation or activation. They're not going to support it indefinitely, not at these prices. And that's the other thing people need to understand. You can get as good a service as you want if you're willing to pay for it. But what do we call the lowest possible price with the best possible service? And I would say there's very few things in life you're going to buy this inexpensively where you can call or email somebody for help for 6 months after the purchase. It ain't going to happen at a restaurant. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen in so many businesses. Even a car. You buy a car, especially a used one, that's as is, you know. Not that these are used product keys, so I don't want to confuse you. But I don't mess around when it comes to my business. I'm not looking to save $2 or $3 on a product key and roll the dice and hope it works. And if it doesn't work, too bad, just go roll the dice again. And every time I roll the dice, I got to spend money. So over the long run, how much time am I spending? And how much money am I spending? Just get it done. Do it once, get it done. If you share that mentality, then you want to check out our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs, where I buy the Windows license keys that I use for both myself and my customers. And we have a product coupon code of Carey that'll give you 25% off. The price is already much cheaper than anybody else as far as like Amazon, Newegg, or even Microsoft directly. You're a fraction of that cost, and you're going to get better support than you're going to get from any of them anyway, if you have any problems. Furthermore, if you have any problems and you reach out to them and they're not resolving it, you reach out to me personally. I will resolve it. And I almost never have to do that. That's why I continue to endorse them with such enthusiasm. It's worth the peace of mind to do it once, get it done, and not deal with the hassle. And if you have a problem, it won't be a hassle. It's already a problem, right? That's bad enough. But then when you go to look for help and you're not getting it, that's just like pouring salt on an open wound. So we're here to make sure that if you guys are looking for product keys for Office or Windows, that there is a safe and secure way to purchase that legitimately with peace of mind that it's backed up, again, a full 6 months of support. We want to thank our friends over there at VIP-URCDKEY for extending this offer to you guys, because it's part of the condition of working with me. I say, okay, if we're going to work together, you need to do something for my audience. You need to do something for them that just somebody using Google wouldn't be able to take advantage of. And it doesn't matter if sometimes there's some overlap. They might run a sale or something like that. But if you want that 25% off and you want it anytime, you don't have to wait for a holiday or a special. You can have that anytime you want it, 24/7. You come here. The links are in our video notes, in the video description below this video. Anytime you want it. It's got convenience, reliability, consistency, and guarantee. So is it the cheapest key you could buy? With all that, yes. If you're willing to sacrifice peace of mind, if you want to gamble, have fun gambling. You'll do so without me because I just can't run my business on a gamble. And I wouldn't treat you any differently than I treat my real life customers, okay? So that's my motivation behind this. This is not a commission-based link. If you buy it or you don't buy it, I don't make more or less money. I want you to know we're doing this for you. It sounds like a sales pitch. That's the end of the sales pitch. I'd like you to save some money. I might offer you a bottle of water because you look dehydrated, but I can't force you to drink it. And it doesn't mean I'm endorsing that bottle of water. I'm just trying to be helpful. All right, with that, let's take a look at what we got here today. This is the Nimo N173, and the links that Mara has provided us. Let's see what they take us to. We've got what appears to be the main Nimo website here. Let's start there. Well, how could it be this cheap? Is this right? $389. Oh, it's bare bones. Okay, remember I said earlier the price of the RAM and the storage is significant now. So and it's gray. Remember I said it was a G, so it was probably green or gray. And the B would be blue. I thought it'd be black. They don't make a black version. They have a rose gold version, a blue version, and a gray version. Some manufacturers will change this price based on the color. That's messed up when manufacturers do that. Nimo ain't playing that game. So what does it mean if you get it with 0 gigs of RAM and 0 storage? It means you have to put your own RAM and storage in it yourself and provide your own operating system. We just got done talking about how you can get your own operating system real cheap. Would that be cheaper for you? Or would it cost you more money? I don't know. Depends on what kind of RAM you're putting in and whether or not you already have it laying around anyway. But to give you an idea of the difference in price, if we bundle that with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte NVMe drive, look how much money that price goes up. It goes up to $599. Now that's actually still a really good price, but just price out 16 gigs of SODIMM RAM along with a 1 terabyte NVMe and use ADATA RAM and use a Kingston or a Western Digital drive and see how much it would cost you if you were to provide that on your own. Say you went on Amazon to buy the RAM or storage. You're going to be higher than this number. The only way that it works out cheaper is if you want higher end components that they don't offer, in which case there's no way to price comparison that, or if you already have extra RAM or storage laying around. Now, if we want to add 32 gigs of RAM, that also that's going to leave the SSD at 1 terabyte. Look at the difference between 32 gig and 16 gig. Granted, they're both going to also include that 1 terabyte storage. And then you max it out with 64 gigs of RAM and a 2 terabyte drive, and you're over $1,000. So we went from $400 to almost $1,100 just by increasing the storage, or giving it RAM and storage, quite frankly, compared to just provide your own. That's also going to include Windows pre-installed when you buy it with RAM and storage. So if you get, and I want to emphasize this, if you get the bare bones model, you're going to open the laptop up, you're going to put your own RAM and storage in it. It's pretty easy to do, but you may not want to be bothered with that hassle, plus installing your operating system and downloading the drivers from Nimo. That'll all be on you. So what you're saving in money, you're spending in time, to each their own. But what are we getting for this money? What is in this laptop? Well, I wonder if there's a coincidence that it's a 17.3 inch screen, 173, and the model is 173. It's a Ryzen R5 6600H. And as we scroll down, it's got a 2-year manufacturer warranty, a 90-day hassle-free return policy from Nimo. Partially assembled in the USA. The graphics card is built into the CPU. It's the 660M GPU. If you want to know what kind of games can this play, you could open up a browser and just type in, what games can I play with a 660M Radeon. And you can sit there and go through a list of thousands of games. That's a hard way to do it. Instead, what I would do is, if there's a particular game that you like to play, or a series of games, and you want to know, will this laptop here play those games well? The one thing that you can rely on is that graphics chip, right? 660M, that's what I said it was. Yeah, 660M. It performs nearly identical on every single manufacturer who sources that part. If you have a V6 engine made by a manufacturer and they put it in 16 different models of cars, they're all going to pretty much have the same torque and horsepower. It's the same engine. So the engine is what we're looking at when it comes to, can it play a game? Because the manufacturers aren't making the graphics cards. The manufacturers of the machine, the laptop, of the mini PCs, they're not making those chips. They're not making the RAM chips, they're not making the storage chips, and they're not making the CPUs. So it's very easy, if you're somebody who's interested in playing games, to determine what's a minimum graphics card you need. Not so much worry about who makes the computer. That's kind of irrelevant. So when I see these reviews where the reviewers are playing a random assortment of 1% or less than half of 1% of all the games you could possibly be playing, I don't know how useful that information is. And of course, they all perform on the same chip, pretty much exactly the same. I mean, there's a level of variation there that is so minuscule as to be within a tolerance of what do we call that? There's a margin of tolerance. So even if you tested the same laptop 5 times, you'd get 5 different responses on the exact same game under the exact same setting. It's a margin of error. That was the word I wanted. Now, the other thing I really enjoy about Nimo, aside from the fact they've got that 2-year warranty, that 90-day return period, if you buy direct from Nimo, they also sell accessories very inexpensively. Now, you may not be aware of this. I want to just get a little dose of reality here for a minute. I want you to know, I don't live under a rock. I know what's going on. Apple has created a sock to put your phone in. And of course, you could fit any phone in there. In fact, you could fit anything that fits in a sock. How much is a sock? You buy a pair of them, right? A pair of socks for your feet. So what Apple has done is they've launched a single sock. You only get one sock. It's got a hole sliced through the side of it. It's knitted, and it's a place to hold your phone. So what is that, like $6? No. That short one right there, well, I think that's the short one. That's $149.95, and this longer one is $229.95. $230 for a cut-up sock. That's literally what it is. You could do this with one of your own. You have a sock laying around? Go to the store, buy a new set of socks, cut a slit down the side of it. There you go. The reason I bring this up isn't so much to belittle Apple or the people that buy that kind of stuff, but to show you that the rest of us, those of us that aren't swimming in extra cash with nothing else to do with it, can certainly appreciate a manufacturer like Nimo, where an extended warranty is only $40, right? That'll get you another year. Their USB hub, it's only $20. Let's say you want a spare laptop charger, those are what, $80 to $120, and Apple, it's even more, $20. You'd be hard pressed to find cheaper prices on Amazon. I mean, it would be cheaper for you to get this 65 to 100 watt charger for your phone than to buy the manufacturer's charger from Apple. Far cheaper. And you're buying it direct from Nimo. It's not like it's some third-party knockoff. It's the real deal. It's the genuine article. So I appreciate that integrity and that honesty. And it just shows you, if they can make a profit at these prices, just how much profit are the other guys making at their prices. So taking a look, we've got the Nimo N173. It's got Windows 11 Home on it. I want to talk to you about this Windows 11 Home. If we go to Nimo's website, right, we're up here at nimopc.com, and we go to support in the help center, and we go to drivers and manuals, and we're looking for the N173 in here. This is all numerically organized: 155, 156, 157, 159, 172, 173. That's us. Give that a clickety-click. Notice there's a download here for Windows 11 Pro, and a download for Windows 11 Home, and a download for for Linux operating system. And the reason this is here is so you can serve yourself. These will make a bootable flash drive to install these operating systems, and the drivers are already built in. If you want to do your own install of your own operating system or provide your own install of Windows, then you just need the drivers. You don't need to contact support. You don't need to ask for any help. So this laptop comes with Windows 11 Home. But what if you want Windows 11 Pro? You email their support and you say, I'm choosing to put Pro on here, but the product key is only for Home. They will provide you with a Windows 11 Pro product key at no additional cost if you ask for it. Okay, who else does that, by the way? Can you name one other manufacturer that gives you all this freedom? So if you're somebody who's independent and self-reliant, and you're not somebody who's constantly calling support, and you need tutoring all the time, not that you're not going to get that here, but they give you everything you need to help yourself should you choose that option. And I like having options. This is under 4 pounds, this laptop. It's going to be a 1080 screen, 60 hertz. The RAM it's got is 4800 speed, and it's Wi-Fi 5, which is a few generations behind. But then so's this chip. That's why the price is so inexpensive, is because you're not getting the latest and greatest, hottest, hardest to cool chips here. You're not getting high drain power screens and all this other stuff that mostly gamers demand. It's got 6 cores. It says storage will hold up to 2 terabytes. It's got a USB Type-C. That's a 3.2 Gen 2 port. That's also got a 10 gig per second speed, so 1,000 megabytes per second, basically. It's either ADATA or Crucial RAM. That's DDR5 pre-installed. And a little bit about the battery here. Battery runtime is about 7 hours. One of the other things I like about Nimo, obviously, because it's sold as a bare bones, which I've never seen any other laptop manufacturer other than maybe Framework do. Framework is the exact opposite of budget friendly. That's your Apple equivalent to the PC world, I guess. But you can see that, well, I'll demonstrate that the machine's going to be very easy to open compared to a lot of other laptops, especially if it's an Apple laptop, that you can't even compare them. And we have a brand new machine here, so there's no reviews on it here. And even though it's using some older technologies, it just means that the price is going to be much, much lower. And you're just going to get better value for the dollar. So unless you're a demanding user, and if you are, I expect you to open up your wallet more to pay for that. This should be more than enough power for the average user. I'd say 2 to 3 times the amount of power the average user needs. But each user is different and unique, and all I can do is provide you with the information the way I see it, and you interpret that as you do to your values and your concerns and your use case scenario, your priorities, your preferences. Those are yours. I'm not here to change your mind or convince you. I just want to provide you the information and give you some perspective, because at the end of the day, whatever decision you make, I want it to be the right decision. If you decide, hey, it's not for you, I don't want you to regret missing it. And if you choose it is for you, I don't want you to have any buyer's remorse in that you're like, oh, I made a bad decision. If I'm 100% honest with you on what you should expect, you should be 100% happy with the decision you make if it's right for you or not. So let me jump back over here to the chat room real quick. Before we get to the unboxing, let's see if there's any questions right out of the gate that I can answer for you. Hey, there's Rick Lakes jumping in the chat saying hello. And Dennis says hello. Does anybody in our chat already have a Nimo laptop? The only thing that upsets me about Nimo is that I wasn't aware of them 2 years ago. Because had I been aware of them, I would have gone out of my way to showcase some of these, because their products have been consistently well made, low priced, fast to ship, and we've had really no issues with their tech support. There's been some mistakes that needed to be corrected, but they corrected them. You know, that's the best you can hope for. And I make mistakes too, and I correct them. There's a lot of manufacturers, I don't know if they're making mistakes, because oftentimes when you go to seek out help, they just don't answer you, they ignore you, they've got your money, they're not giving it back, and that's no way to develop a long-term relationship with a customer. And apparently they're not planning on being in business very long. They just want to grab the money and go. Be wary of those manufacturers. Rely on reviews, watch other YouTube videos, and see what the brand reputation is. Nimo has been absolutely stellar as far as I'm concerned. I don't really have any other laptop manufacturer to compare them with. Well, there are other manufacturers of budget laptops. None have any assembly in the United States. As far as I know, none have that warranty, and none have a 90-day return period. And then when you look at the prices, they don't even beat them on the price. So how Nimo is able to pull this off and make a profit when nobody else seems to be able to do it, that's magic as far as I can tell, because it doesn't make any sense to me. If they're making a profit at these prices and this warranty level and this support level, why is everybody else that's cheap still charging so much and then not delivering all that in addition? Makes you go, something going on there. Thomas says he's got a Nimo 15.6-inch laptop, an i5, and do you like it? He hasn't said if he likes it. Official Tim Tech joins us and says hello, welcome in. Do you need a special key for Snapdragon? Do you need a special key for Snapdragon? Nimo doesn't offer a Snapdragon based computer. If you're asking a completely unrelated question, I'm thrown. If you're saying you have a Snapdragon based computer that's not a Nimo and you want to put Windows on it, do you need a key for that? You would use the same Windows 10 or Windows Home or Windows Pro key for Snapdragon. If I'm understanding the question, you threw me and you kind of spun me around on that one. How did we get the Snapdragon? But yeah, you should be able to just use an ordinary Windows Pro or Home key, regardless if it's an ARM-based CPU with an ARM-based Windows install, or if it's an x86 CPU, such as Intel and AMD. Thomas says he's really enjoying his Nimo and it's very well built. And he also has a Nimo. And if you have a Nimo, please let us know if you like it. Just as I have one. Do you like it? Would you recommend it? So Nimo has already started some Black Friday specials, just so you know. And there are some coupon codes and things in our video description below. just so you know. Thomas MacT says, oh yeah, I said that one already. Yes, he enjoys his Nimo. It's very well built. So Andy, do you like yours? If you had to do it all over again, would you buy it again? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It's not about what a reviewer thinks. It's not about what a manufacturer's marketing tells you. I see all these advertisements and movie trailers for movies that stink. And you spend your hard-earned money and a couple hours of your time to be completely misled. And you say, would you ever see that movie again? No. So just because somebody did something doesn't mean they enjoyed it or that they don't regret it. So I'm just kind of gauging, because I'm pretty confident. It'd be hard to be feeling like you could have made a better choice at this price point for what you're getting for the money with the support and the warranty. But, you know, how do you know for sure unless you ask? So ask the general public. Noodles wants to know if Nimo ships to the UK. You know, we're based here in the USA. I've never stepped foot in the UK or Europe or anywhere outside of the continent. So there's a lot of limited information that I have that's your everyday life. That's completely opposite from my everyday life. What I would do is maybe just go over to the Nimo website here, because there are oftentimes countries listed that they ship to on most manufacturer pages. And no one's ever asked me that question before. But if we look here on the site, let's see. What if we add this to the cart and we say we want to ship it to, go to the checkout, check shipping and calculated, okay. We cannot deliver to PO boxes, APOs, FPO, military address, freight forwarders. All purchases intended for export outside of US will be rejected. So what I would do, if you're curious about any sort of reselling in your country, is reach out to their support at service@NimoPC and ask them directly if there's a reseller in your country, or check your local Amazon and see if Amazon sells it there as well. So there's amazon.co.uk, amazon.ca for Canada, amazon.de for Germany, .it for Italy, etc., etc., etc. But this appears, at least on their website, to only ship to the US. So fair question, never really thought about it before. Annie said, Nimo support is wonderful. I love my Nimo. Love it. That's what I expect. If I honestly thought that there was a product up here on the bench that wasn't going to be good, it wouldn't be up here on the bench to begin with. I would just deny the request to review it. So the very fact that it's here, that I'm spending time to introduce you to it, means that it is potentially a new favorite. And after we got our first one and we evaluated it, we're trying to find, you know, initially I'm skeptical. I'm thinking this is too good to be true. There's got to be something going on. And I couldn't really find much to complain about. And this is me we're talking about. So when they offered to send me another one, I'm like, yeah, send me another one. And then they offered to send me another one. Keep them coming. Let me see what's going on here. All I'm seeing is consistency across the board with quality and value. So far, if there's something else going on, I can't figure it out. It's just a really good price, and it's legit. And you can hear from, you know, folks that have spent their own money and had their own experiences that everybody's happy with them. So if this is the case, why is Nimo so unique in this way? Why can't other manufacturers offer the same kind of value, warranty, and support? I don't get it. And that's why they're on the bench today, because they don't just make one or two products. They make a variety of laptops and mini PCs And we're going to take a look at as many of them as possible, and they have new units with new designs coming out all the time. Okay, are we ready to unbox the Nimo N173 laptop, the 17.3-inch full HD laptop? That's going to be 1920 by 1080. Here we go. When you open a lot of other manufacturers' packaging, there's often a lot of waste. Really bugs me. And so much of it goes right into the trash can. Marketing materials and coupons, all kinds of just landfill. When you open up a computer from Nimo, you don't get any of that. I can tell you from previous experience, there's 4 things in the box: charger, charging cable, laptop, an instruction manual. Nothing more. I mean, we've never seen one of these arrive with any damage. We've never seen one arrive with any problems with regards to not working. They've been very consistent with this. So hopefully I didn't just predict everything wrong, and they will continue with their consistency, and we're going to have just 4 items in this box. Everything we need and nothing we don't. So here we've got the way it's packed with this styrofoam that's going to protect the front and back of the screen from, I mean, let's face it, if this is the box it's shipping, well, it'll be in another box. But if this gets a heavy box set on it during shipping, it could cause damage. And that wouldn't be the shipper's fault. So it's up to the product manufacturer to make sure that they pack things well enough that it arrives in one piece to your front door, the same way as a baggage handler throws around a suitcase on an airline. They'll say, not our fault your suitcase was destroyed, you just bought a cheap suitcase, or you didn't pack a good enough suitcase. Inside the box, you can see the laptop now that we've removed the styrofoam, and there's a little cardboard box right here. That cardboard box is going to have our charger and our charging cable. The laptop itself, when we pull that out, there'll be a little Ziploc bag with an instruction manual, and that's it. That's the whole package. So when I pull this laptop out, and I'll just set it here for a minute, if you look in the box, you'll see the instruction manual right down in there. See that? And then this thin box here, this is going to be your charger and charging cable, which is USB-C. So if you're traveling with your phone, you don't need to bring your phone charger. You can use this charger. If you have other devices that you travel with that charge through USB-C, you can use this charger to charge those devices, obviously one at a time. And then you only have to remember to bring the one charger and the one cable, so you don't have to worry about leaving it behind in the hotel room or whatever when you're traveling, because it's just one thing. And it's one thing you're going to use over and over and over again. It's going to make it hard to forget it. So that's our charger, and here's our charging cable. And it's just a USB-C to C, and even the charger has the Nimo logo on it. How often have I complained about manufacturers that don't put their own branding on their power adapters, and those power adapters can be proprietary. So even though, like on the barrel style power connectors, the barrel connector might fit, if it's not the right power, you could destroy the thing you just plugged into it. So that's why you'll often see me get a label maker or a marker. Like on a black power adapter, I'll use a silver Sharpie marker and write down the name of the manufacturer of the thing it plugs into. Because the name of the manufacturer on the charger is usually a whole nother company that you never heard of before. This creates confusion when those devices get separated, like during a move and things like that. What's ironic here is the fact that Nimo puts their logo on it, even though USB-C is universal. It's less required than, let's say, just a standard barrel style connector, of which there is no standard. other than the size of the connector and what it fits into. The voltages and polarities and amperages could be way off the scale and yet still fit into a device that it could essentially set on fire. So I appreciate that Nimo does that, but of all the companies to do it, that's the least important one because it's so universal. You know, if you were to plug the wrong USB-C adapter in, like let's say you plugged in a 35-watt phone charger into this laptop, it's just not going to charge the laptop, but it won't hurt anything. Let's take a look at what the laptop looks like here. So we'll get this out of the way. And yeah, it's in gray. And let me pull this out of the way. And let's move these out of the way. Now, anytime you get a device that has a battery, the first thing you're going to want to do is plug it in and charge it up. And I would advise that on anything like a smartphone. If you want the longest battery life possible, and I'm sure this will change in time as battery technologies get better and better, there's an anxiousness among us where we just want to get started right away. If you can resist the urge and simply plug the thing in and wait for the charge light to go out, whatever it is that has a battery, before you start using it, you'll probably get a longer battery life. And this is not as important as it used to be. Like, you could open this up right now, turn it on and start using it, and we're going to. And you won't know any different because you won't have anything to compare it to. So some of this is just a little bit of old habits, and some of it's just general good practice when it comes to first-time battery use. It's a choice you make. Essentially, if I'm wrong and you follow my steps to charge it up before you turn it on, then it makes no difference at all. But if I'm right and you don't follow my steps and you immediately start using it, your battery life may be impacted. It's really going to be difficult to run that test and verify because it's not like it's a huge impact, but it could be the difference between, I don't know, 3 years and 6 months of a strong battery and 4 years of a strong battery, maybe. So most people, in my experience, they don't have the patience for it. They're going to just fire it up, and so be it. And it may be just, you know, ignorance is bliss, because the battery is still going to die. Eventually, it's just not going to hold a charge. That's true of every battery ever made in the history of man. And how would you know if it lasted, you know, longer or shorter than it was supposed to? Unless you had a couple of them and you did one way and one another. So that's why I say I wouldn't worry too much about it, but it is a good general practice that I try to abide by as much as possible, especially if I'm spending a lot of money on something. I'd rather take the safe way, knowing there's no downside to it other than, you know, sometimes things could take a while to charge. These don't, by the way. You wouldn't have to wait that long. But I've had some items that need to charge for 12 hours. Well, I can wait 12 hours. I'll just charge it when I go to bed, and, you know, after I wake up and start my day, it should be good to go. That's the way I see it. I have an Oral-B electric toothbrush that has that magnetic charging. That takes about 22 hours to charge up. If it's flashing red that the battery's low before I put it on the charger, I normally just keep it off the charger until that red light starts flashing. And that's usually about 7 days, 6 or 7 days. And then the red light will flash after I've used the toothbrush. I set the toothbrush down. I grab the charger, I plug it in, I set the toothbrush on the charger. That won't, it'll start flashing green as it's charging, and that light won't stop flashing for about 22 hours. So the next day, when I'm ready to use the toothbrush, it'll be fully charged. I take it off the charger, put the charger away, keeps the counter clear. And I don't know that that's a superior way versus always putting it back on the charger when you're done with it, but it's mostly just to keep the clutter off around the sink. And it's working well for me. I get about a week's worth of use out of it. And then, you know, when I put it back on the charger, it takes a long time to charge. Laptops like this, you're probably looking at a couple hours charge time if it were completely flat. And what do we get? Somewhere around 7 hours of battery life, I think is what it said. So that's really, really good. Let me go ahead and open this up. There's probably a little fabric in here, yeah. And that's going to protect the screen from mashing into the keyboard during shipping. Some people keep this and they'll put it back in there. It shouldn't be necessary. We've got a fingerprint reader here. We've got our Go Faster stickers. We have a nice, long, full-size keyboard with a numeric keypad. That's an advantage of the bigger screen, right? Because when we're measuring a 15-inch screen versus a 17-inch, we're measuring it diagonally, meaning it's shorter across the edge, across the top, and across the sides. So you're losing, I don't know how many inches of real estate that is, but it ends up with a laptop that's a lot more narrow, and then there aren't as much room for the keys or the spacing of the keys. So if you're somebody who appreciates well-spaced keys and a keypad, probably the 17-inch is the way to go. On the other hand, if you're someone who appreciates lightweight and longer battery life, then you probably want the 15-inch, but you can't have both. Got to pick where your priorities are. If being comfortable with the keyboard and having that larger screen is important to you, then I think the decision's made. But I will tell you, if you fly a lot and you're in economy, you're going to look like a Tyrannosaurus Rex trying to type on a 17-inch laptop made by anybody using the tray table of the seat in front of you. It doesn't work. 15s are about perfect. 13s are great if you can read them. Right? To me, the 13s were great 15 years ago, but I don't see so good, and now I don't like those 13s at all. Let's get this bad boy fired up here. There's also a built-in web camera, and it has a privacy shutter that you just slide back and forth that's built into the frame, so you don't have to worry about someone turning on your webcam without you knowing. And then, of course, all of our ports over here. You can see that side with HDMI out, USB Type A, and a USB Type C. We always plug into the USB Type C that's closest to the monitor. On every laptop I've ever seen, that's always been our power input. We come around the other side, and you're going to see a micro SD card reader, another USB Type C. Oh, that's not USB Type C. That's a Kensington lock right there. It's Kensington lock. Two more Type A USBs. That's the little SD card trans-flash memory card reader. And that's it. There's no Ethernet jack on this because the laptop's too thin. It's going to be Wi-Fi only, but we can resolve that with a USB to Ethernet adapter, which is what I'm going to use right here. And these are like 15, 20 bucks on Amazon.
To set up your device using a screen reader, turn on narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter.
This is
For
our
more accessibility features, press Windows plus U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Let's go ahead and set up Windows now. What I'm going to do, in theory, the HDMI port should be outputting a video now that Windows is loaded. But if I was trying to get into the BIOS or something, the HDMI cable probably isn't going to output any video for us, as is the case on many, many laptops these days. In order for this HDMI port to work, we have to at least initialize a video driver for Windows. Outside of Windows, it's probably not going to output any video. So hopefully that's outputting video right now. Let's switch over here and see if that's the case. Because it'll be a lot easier to show you the screen. Yes, thankfully that works. Tom Jackson with a $7.77 super chat says, I love my Nimo i3. Right on. Thank you for the feedback, Tom, and also for your super chat. Appreciate you. Okay, well, if you've been watching my videos, you know this routine. United States, US, skip. We do not want to connect to a network until after we've gotten to the Windows desktop, as always, with every computer we ever set up or build ourselves. It's always the same. Never, ever is it ever different. Who's going to use the machine? We'll call it Nimo, and I'll leave the password blank. I'm going to leave my location settings on. That's going to synchronize my date and time at all times, So I never have to worry about the natural loss of seconds and minutes over time that all clocks gain or lose without modification or adjustment. Also, I don't have to worry about daylight saving time adjustments. By letting the computer take care of it for me, it'll make sure I've got the right day, month, year, and time. No reason to have to do all this stuff by hand anymore because it's not the 1990s. And for those of us that are used to that, it's great to know if you're still working on computers in the 1990s. Other than that, it's good information to forget and start embracing what modern technology can do for you today. And it's requiring less and less from the user. So yes, in a way that we're dumbing down the population, and that's what technology does. And if you're looking around, you're going, I think people are getting dumber. Well, you know, a lot of our thinking is being done for us now. So there you go. It's not just your imagination. Now, once the desktop comes up, I will plug in my little USB to Ethernet adapter. This one is a Type C. And we do have a spare Type C on the laptop. There are two Type Cs, one for the power and then one we can use as data. Now these little adapters that I'm showing you guys here today, they make these in Type A and in Type C. They even sell some with little adapters to adapt the adapter. So like this is a USB to network adapter that goes to USB-C, but then there's an adapter that goes to USB-A. I would rather just have a dedicated adapter. So I have a couple USB-C, I have a couple USB-A. I have a couple that are 1 gig connections, some that are 2, 5 gig connections, and even 10 gig connections. Those 10 gig connections are about $130 for the adapters. And you have to load a driver for them. These, on the other hand, you just plug in like the 1 gigabit and the 2.5 gigabit, whether it's USB Type C or Type A. So long as you've got the port, everything else is automatic. Then once I've plugged it in, because the machine's now at the desktop, once I've plugged that in, I can grab my Ethernet cable right here. And this is a 2.5 gig adapter. I click that in place, and then if I go back over to the desktop, you'll see the bottom right corner, a little flashing icon down here. And that's the adapter. Driver's already loaded by Windows automatically. The start menu fills up with icons. And we can take a look at some of our specs here. I guess let's start Windows Update first and foremost, and then we'll look at the specs while updates are installing. That way we can do two things at the same time. So any new computer, this should be the right unboxing process. Recommended that you would not plug it into the network or a Wi-Fi until after you get through the setup. Once you're at the desktop, go ahead and get yourself online, and the first thing you want to do is get all the updates that are missing since the day it was manufactured and then has since been shipped and sat in a warehouse and then shipped to your location and you've unboxed it. Microsoft releases updates every 4 weeks at a minimum, so you're going to be missing some updates. And depending on how old the inventory is, this could be 2 screens long full of updates. This one's not bad. I want to just check our power plan here so that the screen doesn't go to sleep on us while we're live. So I'm going to set the power plan to 2 hours, and I don't want the computer to go to sleep when it's plugged in. Now, if it's on battery, that's a different story, because obviously I wouldn't want my battery to drain out while I'm walked away. Okay, it already wants a, oh no, okay, it's downloading, never mind. No, it doesn't want to restart. Let's go ahead and restart it. There's something that Microsoft introduced where the first time I turn the computer on, I'm seeing an update almost instantly, want to reboot. Now, just because the restart button lights up, if I still see it's doing downloads and updates, I leave it alone. But when that pop-up window says, do you want to restart? That's one of the checkboxes I just checked in the options, is to alert me when it wants a restart. Not when it's possible to restart, when it really needs it. So that pops up when it really needs it. So we want to get that restart done and let that update do what it's doing before we do the other updates, or they could fail and it's just going to take more time. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just a waste of time. When this comes back up, we're going to go back to Windows Updates, and then we'll check, Crystal Disk Mark, Crystal Disk Info. We'll make sure that it's shipped to us as it was spec'd out, which I believe Actually, I didn't look at the side of the box to see how much RAM and storage this came with. I think it's 16 gigs and 1 terabyte, but we're going to go ahead and let it reboot, and then we'll just check and see what's in there. As I mentioned, these do have a lot of different configuration possibilities here, but I'm not sure which one they sent us. In much the same way, when a client calls me and says, hey, I bought a new laptop, I need you to come over here and help me with it. I don't know what they bought. I can tell them what the laptop has, but I don't know that's what they bought. So it's rebooting right now. We're just getting back into Windows. And then we're gonna go back over to Windows Update. So here's a few things that I want to check. Well, updates are downloading. I'm gonna go right click on my start button. I'm gonna go to System, and we're gonna see the Ryzen 5 6600H, perfect. We have 32 gigs. See, I thought they sent 16, they sent me 32 gigs. They said it comes with Windows 11 Home, and it does. It's version 2.4H2. Of course, 2.5H2 just came out, so we don't expect manufacturers to have caught up with that yet. So that's as expected. Under support, a lot of times with lesser known manufacturers, this information is empty. And I think this says a lot about a manufacturer if they're proud to tell you who they are and how to reach them, versus if they can't be bothered to fill this information out. You can't help but wonder, maybe they don't want you to know who they are. So I appreciate Nimo puts their contact info here. Also, if we look in the device manager, we can see who makes the Wi-Fi here and any other questions you might have. There's no issues with any drivers missing. If we go to the network adapters, this Realtek is the wireless LAN. That's an 802.11ac Wi-Fi 5. That's your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi. This Realtek Gaming USB 2.5 is the little adapter I bought off Amazon that I plugged in just now. While we're waiting, let me grab my utilities flash drive and plug that in and start copying off the utilities that we use for testing. Now don't worry that I've closed the Windows Update. It's still running in the background. We haven't changed anything. We've just closed the window so we're not looking at it. So here's CPU-Z. And I like to put VLC on all the machines I work on. We'll grab Uncle Carey's Windows 11 optimizer, of course. And that's available now. It just came out. Links are in the video description. That's a collaboration with our friends over at D7X Tech. So you will visit them for any purchase or support. There's Cinebench. We can copy that over. Crystal Disk Mark Portable. Copy that over. Hardware info to monitor the temps, copy that over. And Crystal Disk Mark. Oh, did I copy that already? Crystal Disk Info, I guess, is what I want. And that should be everything we need for testing. One of the things I want to verify, if we go into Crystal Disk Info and we run the Disk Info 64, is we want to make sure that if this machine says it comes with a Gen 4 NVMe drive, that we see a Gen 4 NVMe drive installed. And it's a very easy thing. It's just, these are all free programs that you can download, and I cannot distribute these programs because they're not mine. It'd be like me going over to your house and giving away your stuff to strangers. You would probably call the police. Well, I can't give away Crystal Disk Info or CPU-Z, but you can go and type it into Google search and download it yourself. That's free. No piracy involved there. And you'll notice the transfer mode of the drive is PCIe Gen 4x4. And its current, basically, this first PCIe 4x4 means that's what speed it's in right now. And the second one says this is the maximum speed that it can support. So those two are the same. That's what we want to see, and they are Gen 4. Now, if we run the Crystal Disk Mark test, it may not be that accurate because we have Windows updates running in the background using some of the drive. You know, we don't have a sole access to the drive right now. But when we're using Gen 4, the maximum speeds Gen 4 can produce are about 7,400 megabytes per second on the high end, the expensive side, the side that gets hot. Gen 3, the maximum you're seeing is about 3,600. So when you're buying a pre-built machine, they're probably trying to get you somewhere in the middle in order to keep the price still appealing, right? And the speed difference for most people, you're not going to notice, like here, 56, 57, 60. This drive couldn't do 7,400. It's not a high performance drive. But in everyday use, like if you had a stopwatch and you wanted to see how long it took you to open up Explorer or Word, you're probably not going to notice any difference because the human finger isn't fast enough to stop that stopwatch within milliseconds. But the benchmark should look impressive when it says 7,400. The practical reality is most people can't tell the difference. But I do want to make sure we got what we paid for. If we got Gen 4, then what version of Gen 4 did we get? Because technically anything over 3,800 megabytes per second would qualify. So I don't want it that low. And if we went up to the high end, you know, we could have heat issues and it would raise the price of the laptop. So if I want to keep it in value, I want it somewhere in the middle. And that's exactly where we've got it here, is right here in the middle. Now, if you're wondering, well, how do I know what the drive is capable of? Aside from knowing that it's generation 4 of PCIe, again, we have the answers to every question at our fingertips. We have a Kingston 1 terabyte drive here. So I'm going to highlight that and copy it. And I can open Copilot or Google, whatever you want to use, and I can ask it. So let's say, what is the max? Just ask it like a person. Read and write speed of, and then I'll paste the model of drive. And Copilot should be accurate, but it's always good to double check your answers. So a maximum of 6,000 on the reads and 4,000 on the writes. And remember, I said these numbers may be a little bit low because we're installing Windows updates right now, and you should do this test. Well, that write speed's way higher than what was projected. You should do these tests when the system is idle if you want accurate numbers. And then while that's going on, we can come back over to Windows Update and see how that's progressing. So just finishing downloading this one update here, and that will start to install, and then we can do our reboot. Now, if you've ever seen me open these laptops before, you need a small, like, jeweler's style screwdriver. You generally don't need a spudger. It's a good idea to have one just in case, depending on how familiar and how comfortable you are with the little plastic clips that hold things together. And they're definitely one of the easiest manufacturers of laptops I've ever opened. There's been a few Dells and HPs that were easy to open, but I can't tell you what they are. They're just mixed in with ones that are hard to open. But Nimo across the board, they're all easy to open. You don't need special, like with HP, they have these little tiny Torx bits. Who's got those? You know, now you got to buy a special tool to get it open. None of that is with Nimo. So it's another little detail. As a technician, I appreciate that I don't have to buy special tools like I do with HP or some Dells. So while this is installing, let's see what questions you have or what's on your mind here in the chat. Carey, do you play any games? I love Galaga. And he said that's the same NVMe drive that's in his Nimo as well. Yeah, so Nimo will use either Kingston or Western Digital, just across the board. It's not like they're going to have a large variety of NVMe drives depending on the model, because then you start running into inventory control costs and controls. So it makes sense to just sort of have one universal or two, this or that, versus a whole pie chart. And wouldn't be a pie chart, it'd be like a logic tree. If this, then this, unless this, and then it has this part, unless it's that part. So they do keep things real simple. That brings costs down, brings complexity down. So you should expect the same. Yeah. Carey, why do you prefer Crystal Disk Info over Hard Disk Sentinel? I don't know. Why do you prefer a KitKat bar over, a Butterfinger? Why, when you go to a restaurant, do you prefer one menu item over another menu item? Why do you prefer that haircut? Why do you prefer those clothes you wear? It's an unanswerable question. It's each individual's values. I think there's a misunderstanding in our society today where people seem to be confused over respecting other people's individuality. We must all be the same? I hope not. I'm not trying to convince you that what I use is right for you. I stick with known, reliable tools that are easy for me to acquire, that have been around, as far as I can tell, since day one. And if a newer tool comes out, I'm less likely going to use it because it throws off every benchmark. If I'm always benchmarking with a particular piece of software, like Cinebench R23, and then I switch over to Cinebench R24, that negates any comparison you can do to every previous test I've ever run on any computer. Eventually, the technology gets to a point where I have to switch. So you don't see me running the Heaven benchmark anymore, because there's no point. But I will use the same benchmark because I want the viewer to be able to replicate what I'm doing. And asking somebody why they like something, it's a strange question, because why does anybody like anything, right? And you'll also notice I only use portable versions of tools. Some tools, and I can't speak for the one you mentioned, may require an install, and that's sloppy and unprofessional to install software on a customer's machine. Even if you want to install it, you're still going to have bits remaining. And that's something Geek Squad does. It's something hacks do. Professionals in IT don't do that. Like if you worked in corporate America and you did that, you'd probably get fired. Or at least if they found out about it, you'd have a talking to. There's also some legal reasons. But regardless to that, these are my preferences, and that's all you really need to know. When you want to know why I have preferences, it's because those are my preferences. Why do you like the shoes you're wearing? I don't know. I probably aren't wearing the same shoes you are, nor do I care. If you're comfortable and you're happy, good on you. I don't care if they were cheap. I don't care if you like the color. I don't care if they're super comfortable. I don't care if it just impresses all your friends. It doesn't make a difference to me. As long as you're happy, be cool. If you want to use the tools I use because you like them, great. If you want to use the tools because I like them, I guess. Patrick Manny renews membership. Now a member 42 months. He says, I just turned 80 the other day. Now I'm an old fart. LOL. 80 years old. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I talk to a lot of people, and the majority of the time I hear people say, I didn't think I was going to live past 50. I'm just curious, Patrick. Did you think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm going to be around? Like when you were a lot younger, when you're in your 20s, did you think, oh yeah, I'll be 100 years old? Or did you think, like a lot of my friends, of course I'm Generation X, so we didn't expect to live long. We weren't sure we were going to make it out of our teenage years. And many of us didn't. But yeah, it seemed like, 65, maybe, if I'm lucky. And before you know it, you're 80 and you're like, well, darn it, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. They say that I think it's a couple in Florida. Their combined ages, the husband and wife, 216 years. So they're each over 100 years old. Crazy. Getting a lot of birthdays, though. So happy 80th and happy 60th to Luke Greenia. Luke's birthday is tomorrow, the big 6-0. Right on. Ron Barnish says, hey, I made it to 83 last month, so at least we're 2 old farts on board. Someone's always got to outdo you, don't they? You're 80, you're just a baby. I was talking to Mitch the other day, and I said something like, you know, these people were older, like 60, 70 years old. And then I stopped myself because I just heard what I said. And I'm like, when I say older, I mean older than me. I didn't mean to imply that, you know, they were elderly. They're just older than me. That's my baseline. Anybody older than me is older. These are the older people. AJ Dubs says, you people make me feel like a snot-nosed kid at 65 years old. Well, wipe that nose. How many times I got to tell you? Kershey says, I bought a Nimo N173 from Amazon. I could not register the laptop on Nimo's website. No drivers were listed on their website, and their support has been unresponsive. You should reach out to us directly because we've not had that experience. We've never heard anybody say that. So if you look at the N158B, like let's just handle this live, because sometimes a couple things happen on the internet. One is people like to group together with other people who agree with them. So they'll immediately go out and find somebody else who has a negative view to match their negative view, and that reemphasizes that they're right instead of maybe I've done something wrong, right? Maybe I'm not reaching out to the right support. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. Because if we can help you by educating you, we're sure we can get you happy. But if you're absolutely insistent, and I don't know which way you are, that your mind is made up, then there's nothing we can do to help you because you're refusing help. So let me give you an example. Let's say our roles were reversed and I'm in your shoes right now and I've got a Nimo 158B that I ordered from Amazon. Now you and I both know that Amazon has a 30-day return policy. So if I get the least bit of suspicion that I'm not going to be happy with this within those first 30 days, and I can't be bothered to get myself educated to make sure and to verify that what I'm doing is correct, I'm just going to return it to Amazon. Super easy, costs you nothing. Number one. Number two, I would go to Nimo's website and see Nimo N158B. Got to remember, there was an internet outage a couple days ago that affected a lot of websites not working. And if you happen to try and register your website, well, stuff like Amazon services was down. People don't realize it's all interconnected, and so they immediately blame the manufacturer, and they don't associate like, oh, well, you know, I ordered a product and it took forever to arrive. But they don't mention it was during the pandemic. It's like, did you forget there was a pandemic? Have you already forget? Some people do this. I don't know if you're one of those people, but it happens all the time. People go, well, you know, I ordered this thing. It took 2 months to get here. Yeah, you ordered it during the pandemic. Remember? Oh, yeah. So let's take a look together, right? This is all unrehearsed. This is all live. And if I had a 158 from Amazon or wherever I bought it, I would go to the manufacturer's website for help. So number one, I would jump over here to, let's go back over to Nimo's website, and we'll grab a screen capture here. And we're going to go back to Support, Help Center. And then I'm going to click on Driver and Manual. Remember, I said all these are numbered in order: 151, 152, 153, 156, 157. And I do not see a 158. So, okay, so here's the first step, right? It's just to verify we've got everything correct here. And when looking for a 158, you'll notice it goes from 157 to 159. But there's something here called an N15A. which for some reason doesn't match all the other numbers here. And it's possible that this is the model you have. However, let's go look at Amazon real quick and see if we can locate the model that you purchased so we can decipher if it's a naming issue. So N158. So one of these shows up here, but I don't see the model numbers. Well, if the search is accurate and we click on the first thing, it is a little frustrating that Nimo doesn't put the model consistently on Amazon. Look, this is a naming issue, but it is a Nimo 158. It does exist. And did we do a review on a 158? That's the other thing I want to know. I also want to know if they've given it a second name. Is it possible this is the 15A? One of the ways you can tell is just look at which processor. It's a Ryzen 7 8745, and the 15A is what? No, it's not the same model. So the other thing I'm going to look for, because they seem to be consistently putting the CPU, well, see, now they didn't put the CPU in here, but they did over here. And we're going to mention this to them as an opportunity for them to sort of get some clarity and conformity with the way that they're labeling things. Like they have this Nimo N178, but they actually call this a NeroBook. So which is it? So in my opinion, this should say Niro N178 NeroBook. But if you look on Amazon, it just says Nimo NeroBook and it doesn't say N178. That doesn't mean the product's not there. It's just Nimo's got a couple models where I don't know why, they've not been consistent with providing the model number. So let's take a look again over here at the, this is Ryzen 7 8745. Is there an 8745 on the list? Just real quickly, trying to do this in a lazy way. See here, the 177, they don't tell us. So that's a little maddening. They tell us here what the CPU is, here, 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 but not here, here. Or, again, this is a NeroBook, and they don't say it's a NeroBook here. But if you look at the, just to give you an example, if I type in 178, what shows up? Do you see N178 anywhere in this title? How would you know? So here's what I would do. Since we're verifying that when we go to the Help Center, we don't see a laptop, at least not up the top here, with that processor, which is the, I've already forgotten. Let me look back at it again. The Ryzen 7 8745, so it's an 8th gen, 8745. And we go back over to the Help Center. It shouldn't be this hard, by the way. But we start looking at which, that one has the processor, that one has the processor, that one, this one doesn't. And I don't see the specs on this one either. So let's do this. Let's do, let's copy this. Let's open up Google and let's just do a search for Nimo. And we're just going to look for that processor. And so Amazon shows up. So Nimo is saying that's an N177. Huh. I wonder if you have the 15-inch version, if that's why this starts with a 17. Because in theory, this is the N177 that you have. At least as far as drivers and support, this would all be identical. So if we look over at support, now that we know this, and we'll go to the Help Center, and we'll look for the driver manual for the N177. right there, then all of this should work with your laptop right here. This should be all the same drivers, operating system, everything. Now, with regards to your registration, and I don't know what you've tried, but if you went to support and you went to contact us, you would send an email, and make sure you type it correctly, to their address. Or actually, no, you just fill in this form. Then you don't have to worry about it. You fill in the form, so it's after sales, your name, your email, you purchase it from Amazon, right? What your Amazon order number and serial number are. What's the problem type? You can in this case say it's other. And then what are you looking for? You're looking for a repair, replacement. Again, I think you're looking for other. And then leave your comment, and they should get back to you. And if they don't get back to you, because remember, a lot of the people that do the support are on another country that are, 12, 13-hour time difference. So while you're up right now, they're sleeping. So give them a good 24-hour business day to get back to you. If you don't hear back, call them at this phone number. Call 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Time and get them on the phone. Now, if you're still not having any luck, you should reach out to us directly here on the channel, because we have our own personal contact information, and you shouldn't need to do this. But if it comes down to it, you can email us, provide us with your contact information. We'll provide it to our contact at Nimo and say, and by the way, not only is this model missing, can't register it, and he's not getting any responses, and I'd like to see you update the website for more consistency, put in the missing model, figure out why you can't register it, and help the poor guy out. He's been trying to reach you. Please do better. We have no problem with that, okay? And don't ask us to do that unless we have to. Give them an opportunity to respond to you. And if you think, hey, it's not worth it, if that's been your experience, then I advise you, if you bought it from Amazon, just return it for free and make a different purchasing decision. So you've pointed something out here I wasn't aware of, but I've just verified it. And I can't explain why they wouldn't have gotten back to you. But that's something only they can answer. And they've always gotten back to us, and I don't always make it clear who I am, because I want to see if they respond to different inquiries equally to the way that they respond to me. And they always have. So make sure you check your spam folder, make sure that you didn't in fact get a response and you just never saw it. And one of the best ways would be to simply get them on the phone. Because we have such email problems today with junk filtering being incorrect. The best thing you can do is get them on the phone. See what they tell you. And then let us know. Because if that's still not resolved, we'll get involved for you. And yeah, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and I'm sure they will too, because they want their site to be more user-friendly, and if they're not aware of it, how would they know? So we always give them the benefit of the doubt, and once we make them aware of it, if they choose to leave it as is, that's a different story. But as far as we know right now, they're not aware of this omission. So we appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We will definitely bring it to their attention. Okay, I think we've rebooted here after our updates. Yep, let's go check for updates again. Mark Leibowitz joins us here from Chicago, and of course David Graham. Shane Perkins says it's a Delaware number. That's because it's a Delaware address. If you put that address in like Google Maps, you'll see it's an industrial park where there's a lot of businesses. It's not a P.O. box or anything like that. They're really in Delaware. Mark Leibowitz says he wants to see an IP68 rated laptop model named the Nimo Nautilus so you could submerge it. Yeah, there's a lot of call for people using laptops underwater. Probably sell out of those right away. Josh Kinder's thanking our friend Buster for all of his help so people can watch the live stream. Really appreciates. That's kind of you, Josh. That's Olaf saying, happy birthday to everyone out there. Patrick Benson says, I'm young and willing at heart, but the body says otherwise. Right? It's like when people see the dog, the older dog acting like a puppy. He still thinks he's a puppy. Happens to us all, man. Andy says he reached out to Nimo just after their hours, and they got back to me the same day. Yeah, that's why it's so unusual to hear anything bad about Nimo, but that doesn't mean that things don't slip through the cracks. We just got to figure out where the disconnect is, that's all. Mark says, Carey, the idea of a laptop that can be used underwater seems to have appeal for some of my clients. Even more would like laptops that can be used while swimming in coffee and Coca-Cola. Sounds like it's got to be a sticky laptop. All right. As soon as these updates are done, I think what I'll do is I'll turn the laptop off. We'll take the back off of it, show you how easy these are to get into and how they can be upgraded. Yeah, Andy says not only did they return his call the same day after hours, they sent him out a replacement laptop the very next day. So that's cool. That's the kind of service I would expect when spending $2,000 or $3,000 on a laptop. So to get that at this price range is almost unheard of in the industry. You know, and that's why we're going to feature a lot more Nimo laptops or Nimo products. So long as they continue this, doesn't mean they never do anything wrong. It doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. The question is, do they make it right or do they blow you off? So one person has said they're feeling blown off, but we don't know the whole story. We only hear their version of the story. And their version of the story may be 100% accurate, but it doesn't match the Nimo I know. But if they ended up responding and you just never saw the response, not much I can do about that either. But that's why the phone call, I think, is the best way to go. Call them on Monday, if you can, and get somebody on the phone. Or if you'd like, call them right now. There should be a way for you to leave a message and ask for a return call. You might get a call before Monday. And then let us know. Let us know. Follow up. I'd love to hear how this works out for you. I'm pretty confident Nimo's going to be a pleasure to work with. I just think there's some kind of disconnect in your miscommunication. In your attempts to communicate, somebody somewhere is dropping the ball, and I don't know if it's them or you, but at least on a phone call, there's less chance of getting caught up in spam. All right, as soon as this reboots, we'll shut her down, and then what I'm going to do is I'll grab this toolkit here, and we're going to take the bottom off of this laptop, and we'll see how it's made. Now, I believe this only has one M.2 slot, so there's no secondary M.2. But the RAM said it's DDR5. It should all be socketable and not soldered. And hopefully the Wi-Fi card is replaceable and not soldered in. I don't know until we look at it, though. So now that it's rebooted, let's go ahead and just shut it off. And then as soon as it's off here, I'm going to unplug everything. So my USB to Ethernet, my HDMI, and my charging cable, which charge light is blue. So I don't know, does that mean it's charged? Usually it's orange if it's charging. But on the other hand, on a lot of different models, when things are charged, the light goes out altogether. So not sure. On the bottom of the laptop, we've got 4 screws here, 4 screws through the middle, and 5 screws across the back. Now, think about when you're taking this anything apart, which way it's facing you, the person doing the work. Because to you, the front is facing, but to me, the back. And you also think about the surface. Do you want to scratch your surface up? Do you want to scratch the surface of the laptop? Think about it, because this would be the time to put something soft down, like a towel. I have a sneeze coming on. Woo! I think I lost part of my brain. Okay, so let's do this little tiny Phillips. It doesn't matter where you start. I prefer to always do these the same, which is to have the front facing me. If every time I do this differently, it's going to be hard to learn anything. So if we try to make a consistent pattern or habit out of our processes that makes the processes go smoothly, regardless if it's a laptop or a smaller machine, always have the front facing me. It helps the reassembly process with, hold on a minute, how did this go back in? Oh yeah, you know, I had it facing. Now, thankfully, I have these videos I can always go back to and replay. But finding it, you know, not just laying it on the table without thinking and start disassembling. Unless you're filming it, you can go back and watch the film. It may make the reassembly process just a little more confusing than it needs to be. Now, I don't like using like magnetic pads or bowls for the screws, especially with laptops where the length of the screw can vary depending on what the job of the screw is. So for example, there's a larger screw here and a shorter screw there. And that's because that's for the hinge, and then that's just for the back cover. So I'm taking off the screws in the exact order, or I'm placing them here in the exact order and position that I've taken them out. So this is the back row from right to left, which in your case is left to right, because you're facing me, you're not standing alongside of me. So that's the whole back row. Back row. And I'm going to go to the next row. These in the middle are going to be longer screws. No, maybe not. I'd swore those in the middle were longer, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong. And again, this is why it's important that I take the screws out in the order and in the row, so that putting them back, I'm not going to have any of that confusion of where did this go here, did that go over there. So now we just have these 4 that are facing me, and these are on a bit of an angle. So when you put them back, you need to put them back in an angle. Otherwise, they're not going to sit flush, and you'll know because you'll run your finger. Like right now, it's smooth. But if these screws don't fit flush, if the screw head will sit flat on an angled surface and you'll run your finger, it'll catch your finger. And that means you haven't put it back together correctly. Shouldn't be catching on anything. Now, when it comes to this particular brand of laptop, what I have learned is I don't necessarily need a spudger. There is a lip right back here between the hinge of the screen and the back of the laptop plate. And if I put my fingers in there, I can often just start pulling up. And I'm not going to put too much pressure because I don't want to crack anything. But what I will do is work one side or the other until I hear a snap or a pop. There it goes. See that? And it just starts to gently pop up. And then I'm going to work my way back this way. There's some kind of a latch right here. Don't fight it. If it doesn't want to go, just keep going. to the other side and see if you can get the other side to pop. If not, I want you to think about how much force do you think you can put on this before it cracks. All right, you got to use some judgment here. And once we've got one side up, at that point, just going along the edge should make it a lot easier to start getting these little tabs to disconnect. Now I say should because depending on where we're pulling up, trying to pull up in a different position could release it depending on where the clip is, and we cannot see those clips. So it's a technique you kind of learn by just moving over by about a ½ inch or a centimeter, and try that again. And you'll see it's very, very easily removed without exhibiting too much force. Now, if that didn't work, then I'd grab a spudger. So here's the underside of the lid, and we'll just set that over here. And if I turn this around so you can read it, what you're going to find is our NVMe drive is installed right here. We've got one RAM module, so this is not in dual channel mode, and I think that's important because if you want dual channel mode, you can ask them when you order it. Make that request. Personally, if this is a single 32 gig DDR5, then that means I only have to buy one more to get 64 gigs of RAM. If instead this was two 16s and I wanted to upgrade to 64, I'd have to buy two 32s. That would double my cost. So before you poo-poo the idea that having one RAM module is bad, I want you to think about it. And it would be cheaper for me to order this with 64 gigs of RAM from Nimo, where they would just likely add two 32s. I doubt they would just put one 64 in there. So this makes it easier for Nimo to configure these on demand for the end user. And it makes the end user a lot easier on the end user. If you want to double your RAM capacity, you just get the exact same stick you've got and just add it. You don't have to replace both. It's not soldered on RAM. You can upgrade it. There's our NV3 Kingston NVMe drive. Again, I don't see any secondary M.2 slot. Our Wi-Fi is in fact soldered to the board, so we cannot upgrade the Wi-Fi on this model. The battery just has a few screws and a simple connection that gets unplugged here, and it's easily swappable. You can do this yourself. All batteries go bad in time. If you're wondering what these boxes are here, these are your left and right speakers. This is your CMOS battery. This little circuit board, we call this a daughter board. Those are all of your I/O on this side of the laptop. This side of the laptop I/O is built onto the motherboard, and the motherboard is just this little part of the laptop, pretty much right here. You see this, where the screwdriver is? To where the screwdriver is. That's the motherboard. That's the daughter board. And the cooler is actually on the CPU over here, and the heat pipes transfer the heat over to here. And whenever you want to do any maintenance on your laptop, you just want to make sure that this fan is clear of debris, and make sure that you don't have any dust or lint built here in the back. It's hard to see with the lid closed, but when we open the lid, there's a heat sink that's hidden back there that's going to blow air out from the CPU. That's where the hot air is going to come out. I don't know if you can see it any better this way, but it's all going to come out right through here. And that's why it's important that you don't set a laptop down like on a bed with a blanket, because then you're blocking the intake of air to this fan, which is likely drawing air in from these vent holes on the bottom of the laptop. Those are there for a reason. See how you can see through that? If you block that by setting it down on a bed, it can't breathe. You might as well just put a pillowcase over your head. That's what it feels like to the computer when you do that. And you'll probably start noticing it's getting warm, and you'll start hearing the fans ramping up. And that means you just need to get the laptop, put something under it so it sits up a little bit so it can get some air up underneath. That's almost universally true with all laptops, by the way. That's not unique to Nimo. Let me bring it up to the camera. We'll give you a nice close-up of the internals here. That blue board, that's the motherboard right there. Just that. Everything else is battery and screen. Speakers and daughter board. That's all there is to it. As for this RAM, let's see the details. As advertised, ADATA 4800 speed, DDR5, 32 gig module. Super easy to install. Just grab another one, double your RAM to 64. Is it time for my thumbnail? This isn't awkward or silly at all. I will oftentimes put these unboxings up onto Amazon. And I just do a little differently over there because they just want to see an unboxing over there. They don't want to. They say they want reviews, but they don't really want. And they being Amazon, it's frustrating sometimes. So you want to let a buyer know something and Amazon won't allow it. So I do things a little differently for them, but I do hope that it helps Nimo out, that people can see an unboxing if they're on Amazon and they're curious, you know, they're kind of on the fence of a purchasing decision, then that can help them set proper expectations. Then, I mean, it's just a matter of an edit. I'm happy to do it. Well, I've got it open. Do you have any questions for me? And yes, if you would prefer to have two 16 gig modules instead of 132, as Andy mentions, when you buy, just contact them. And if I were you, I would contact them before you order. Say, look, I want to order this laptop, but I want to make sure it's in dual channel with, you know, 32 gigs of RAM, so 2 sticks of 16. Can you do that for me? And would I do that online, or do we do that over the phone? And they'll walk you through it. They'd be more than happy to. Andy mentions, like, if you did want 64 and you were going to add the other one yourself, in almost all cases, it's cheaper to just have the manufacturer doing it because they're buying memory in bulk. They're not just buying one stick off Amazon or Newegg. They're buying like a pallet of memory, hundreds of units. So their price per unit is cheaper than yours. As a result, it's cheaper for them to do it than for you to do it yourself, unless you just have something laying around the house you're not using. That would be the only exception. And furthermore, if you want the 2-year warranty to apply to everything, you have to let them provide everything. If you buy a bare bones unit that has a 2-year warranty, but you put your own NVMe and your own RAM, and now you're having problems, that RAM and that NVMe drive, that's on you. That has nothing to do with them. So if you were going to return that for warranty, you'd need to open the laptop up, take that stuff out that you added. If you bought a car and you decided to put a lot of add-ons onto your car, fancy tires, fancy rims, there really isn't any Blue Book value on that. Nothing. So while you're spending all this money, it doesn't really make the car worth anymore. And none of that stuff you're changing is under warranty from the manufacturer. That's separate warranties between you and those devices you're adding. And if those devices you're adding are the things that are causing the problem, then that's not a free repair, right? That's something you should expect to have to pay for to fix your mistake. And if you just make sure that when you buy, you get everything from the manufacturer, that's never a possibility. If the RAM and the storage are provided by Nimo, then that falls under the rest of the warranty for the whole laptop. It's not different or an exception, and you don't have to do anything special if they have you mail it in for repair. If it was your RAM and storage, they tell you to remove that before you send it in. You know, when I buy this screwdriver and I had a problem with it, they don't want me to send the battery. They don't want me to send my bit because they did not provide any of this. They just want this back. Now, this is not a big deal because it's a screwdriver, but if it's a computer that you've got to open up and dismantle it and take parts out, it could be a little discouraging. but it's pretty much universally the same, whether it's a car, a screwdriver. They want your modifications removed in order to verify if it's their warranty problem or your warranty problem. Okay, so if you don't want that hassle, don't go down that road. If you do go down that road, know what to expect. Universally from any manufacturer, that holds true. Nobody else is warranting somebody else's stuff, including the stuff you do. David Graham says, do I have a cold? No, I just sneezed. I think it's something in the air. Some kind of allergy to something. David Graham says, why would they only have one NVMe slot? Well, it's all about cost. So when we look at Nimo's website, you see they have a variety of laptops at a variety of prices, a variety of screen sizes, and a variety of configuration possibilities. So for example, if you look at some of the other Nimo laptops we've reviewed a few that have 2 NVMe slots. Because, well, you say, why is there only one NVMe slot? You have to think about what other people will say, which is, why does it have 2? I only need 1. Why would I pay for a second one if I don't need that? When would I ever use it? So I guess the important thing to consider is if you're of a level of technical intelligence or awareness that's important to you, then you know to watch for that. And you also know to expect to pay additional for additional features. But if you don't know enough to know what that even means, then you're probably more representing the average buyer. And if the average buyer was told, hey, that has a second NVMe, and you know, what do I use it for? I mean, I see in real life people that have a D drive that's completely empty. So I look at their computer and I see the C drive is barely being used. And I go, what's this D drive? And they go, I don't know, what's a D drive? I go, so they don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is, I don't use it. Is it a partition of your main drive? Is it a sub drive? They're like, what do I know? What am I supposed to use it? What do I use it for? Never mind. So those who know enough to ask the question should know enough to watch for that before they make any purchase, and to know that that's going to cost more, right? We also have seen Nimo laptops that have removable Wi-Fi cards, and we've seen them where they're soldered in. And it's going to be reflected in the price every single time. If you want to know why, cost. It's always the same answer. Everybody wants everything at the lowest possible price. And it's so unreasonable to expect that you're going to pay a fraction of what everybody else pays, but get all the same things they get. It's just not going to happen. I mean, unless you happen to catch a sale or somebody's privately selling. When you buy retail, you're playing the same rules everybody else is playing by. Now, when you're spending a lot of money and you want to know, like in the world of Apple, why does Apple charge so much to give you so little? That's par for the course if you want to buy Apple, and it's the same for everybody who buys Apple. It's not just you. And if what you want to do is scour the very low-end, budget systems, but then look for all these modern-day features, you're going to have to give up one or the other, right? There's a reason why the prices are lower. And for most people, the things that they're sacrificing, they don't know they're missing, they don't know what they are, and they don't care. So long as hey, I get a brand new laptop with a 2-year warranty for $400, a 90-day return policy with Nimo. What else do you need to know? It's only the technically minded that really start questioning single channel, dual channel, 1 NVMe versus 2, Wi-Fi 5 versus Wi-Fi 6. And you can do that as long as you're willing to open up your wallet. It'd be like me going into McDonald's and expecting filet mignon. I'm being unreasonable. I should know what to expect at McDonald's. But at the same time, the opposite is true. If I go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and they serve me a McDonald's burger, I'm going to hit the roof. So there's no intermixing of that. It's one or the other. And it's usually all going to be justifiable based on how much you're paying. So if you're paying a little tiny amount, but you're expecting a whole lot in return, the issue is your logic, because that's not how businesses stay in business. The same rules, and I cannot emphasize this enough, when you shop for retail, apply to all of us, not just you. So you should know that, just based on what you're paying, whether it's McDonald's or a fancy steakhouse, what you would expect on the plate. And choose accordingly to what your preferences are and what your budget is. Nobody's doing it any differently. I'm not aware of any dine-in steakhouse that I can eat at for the price of McDonald's. But at the end of the day, I may not care. I just want food. Depends how hungry I am. Peter says that's a nice big battery. Yeah, it takes up a pretty good size in there, doesn't it? A lot of space. David Graham says, I put a 4 terabyte NVMe in for a game drive and the other as a Windows drive. Yeah. Do you know how many clients I've had in my entire career that have done that? A couple dozen out of the thousands. So you have unique preferences and you're paying for that. That 4 terabyte drive, I'm sure, was no less than $600. You could buy this laptop 1.5 times for the price of just your NVMe drive. And you're welcome to have those demands, again, if you're willing to put the money forth to pay for it. But to expect those kind of demands without paying the additional money, that's where I'm trying to sort of raise awareness, is to say, look at the price, look at how much you're getting. How can you complain that's not enough? If you want more, you're going to have to spend more. And I would say it the exact opposite. If this was a $3,000 laptop, I'd say, well, I would expect a lot more for $3,000, right? So it works both ways. Mark Leibowitz says, Carey, how many of your clients know their shared folders as the Z drive and have no idea it's not physically in their computers? Universally, my clients know the Z drive is not a part of their computer. And they know that because sometimes it goes missing. And then they call me and they know it has something to do with the server. And that's a NAS. We don't really run any servers at my clients, but I name the NAS server. That's its name. So if I ever have to locate it to log into it, I just go to command prompt, type ping server, and I get the IP address. Then I can log into the NAS if I need to and do updates or whatever. But yeah, they all know it's the server, and I'm good. I'm happy for them to call it a NAS or call it a server. I know what they mean because they only have one. They don't have both. And I just think server's a more commonly used term that anybody using a computer's heard that word. NAS, then it requires a little more explanation, and I'd rather just not get into it. For all intents and purposes, as far as they're concerned, it's your server. Put all your data on your server gets backed up, your PC doesn't, and we just kind of keep it simple. Now, if I were training them to be a computer technician or to take an exam later, I wouldn't train them that way, but they know what they need to know, and often when they need to know it. They're not paid to learn it, I am, so it's my job to worry about those technical minutiae. And I prefer it that way because if they understood all of it, they probably wouldn't need me anymore. Peter said you could use a 4 terabyte drive, which is usually enough for most people. Most people don't use a 512 gig drive. I don't know what world you live in or what friends you have, but if you look around outside of your inner circle and you look at what your parents might use or what just ordinary everyday folks are very little use of hard drive space. Most computers that I work on, whether it's in a business or it's a home computer user, 100 gigs. 100 gigs? Yeah, 100 to 150 gigs, with it probably being closer to 100 gigs on average. Doesn't matter how many years they've had the computer. People just aren't loading up lots of software. You're talking about gamers, for the most part, that need this stuff. And like I said, gamers, for me, they're just very rich, finicky people that don't want to spend a lot of money overall, and I'm stereotyping. They're always Nothing's ever enough. They're always difficult to please. They always want more, and they always don't want to pay any more than a bare minimum. It's a very difficult business to get in if your customer's mentality is so demanding and intolerant. So when I hear that term, when it's somebody that's doing gaming or somebody that's like collecting movies, I'm kind of distancing myself from that, because these are people that, if you want to pay for the service, I'm fine with it. But often they don't want to pay for it, or the amount they think it's worth. Like they're like, well, you shouldn't charge more than that. Well, if you know so much about what I should charge, you don't need my help. You obviously know what's involved. You take care of it. I don't get that from ordinary customers, and I don't get that from businesses. And there's always an exception here or there. But I'm certainly, look, I don't care what somebody uses their computer for. If you're downloading movies online, knock yourself out. I don't care. I also am not going to help you with it. I'm not going to be an accomplice to that, and I'm not going to tell you not to do it. It's your business. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. If you're using your computer to play games, go play your games. I'm not telling you you're a bad person. I'm simply stating that's not a part of my business. It's not financially feasible, or I'd be doing it. And anybody else who needs a 4 terabyte drive, I could probably count on 2 hands. I've had a professional photographer. I've had a couple professional photographers, and they save every picture they've ever taken in RAW mode, and they will eat up gigs and gigs of space. And it almost seems like no matter how much space we give them, they will use every bit of it. They won't, and they wait until it's all maxed out, and you have to explain to them, you either need to then upgrade. Well, I just upgraded. I just put new drives in it. Yeah, and you've already filled them up. They were twice as big as your last drives, and within 3 months, you've already filled them. So you now need a bigger NAS that can hold more drives, and bigger drives that can hold more data. And you're going to spend $2,000–$3,000 minimum, and we're going to get your old stuff moved over onto there. And they go, but I don't want to spend $3,000. And yet they've got $25,000 worth of camera equipment and lenses. I'm like, then you got to delete some stuff. You can't possibly need every one of those photos. Most of those are probably bad shots. And you're like, I might need it someday. Or go through and render them down to JPEGs instead of saving them all in RAW. Well, if they're RAW, they're less editable. I get it, but if you have 1,700 pictures of the same tree, maybe you could get rid of 1,500 of those. Maybe. If you don't want to, we got to get you more storage. And if you ate up that much storage in 2 months, how many more months do you want before you're going to be back here again? Because let's just do this once. So if you're using 20 gigs and we doubled you to 40, and you use that extra 20 in 2 months, we need to get you like an 8-drive NAS filled with 30 terabyte drives, and then you should be good for about a year or 2. But you're also going to drop about $5 or $6 grand on that. So what do you want to do? Do you want to delete some stuff? Or you want to invest in some new equipment? So that would be an example of somebody where it's generally not for a business. It's generally a hobby. They like taking pictures. One gentleman did portrait photography, but not many people do portrait photography anymore in 2025. I think those days of Olin Mills and going down to Sears for the family photo, I think they're all behind us. So there may be a couple still out there. But when it comes to lawyers and dentists and doctors, there's not that much data. Not in my experience. So we're generally dealing with home enthusiasts who have a hobby. So they're not making money from their hobby. That's why it's not a job. A hobby is something you pay to do, and a job is something you get paid to do. And it's okay to have your hobbies, enjoy them. But at the same time, don't think for 1 second that that represents normal computer usage of a hobbyist. Only of other hobbyists. And they do not make up, unfortunately, for me, they don't make up the majority of computer owners, because otherwise I could be doing really, really well financially if they were. But be that as it may, that's just the market. And the majority of the marketplace are just average consumers, and they're not using maybe 100 gigs of storage space over the entire years of ownership of their computer. Terabytes, almost never. Almost never. And then 4 terabyte, you're getting into an enthusiast area here where, yeah, I mean, I'm not telling you it's bad. I'm just saying it's not representative of the common man. And that's okay, it doesn't have to be. But don't think that just because you like putting pickles on peanut butter, that everybody has peanut butter with pickles on it. Some people do. It's not wrong, it's just not common. That's all I'll try to say. Mark Gain says, my Windows 11 optimizer says Secure Boot is off on my PC. Is it meant to be like that? Well, tell you what, let's put this back together and then we'll run the optimizer on it. One of the first things I can tell you is that Nick has been tirelessly at work updating the optimizer, changing some things around. So the first thing I would recommend that you do is that you check to make sure you've got the latest update. So that's real easy. When you start up, it'll ask if you want to check for updates. Tell it yes. And if you haven't done that in about a week or so, there's probably been an update. And these updates have been pretty significant because the product is so new. There's some changes to the way things are being measured and completed. So that's step one. Make sure you have the latest update. Step two is Secure Boot on your machine? In other words, what I want to know next is it that the tool is misreporting your Secure Boot mode? Or is it that you don't have Secure Boot on and the tool is reporting it correctly? I think there were some issues in prior versions where it wasn't being reported accurately on all machines, only on some. And Nick was able to identify what was causing that and corrected it. That's why it's so important. Whenever you run the optimizer, always check for updates. Before you execute the optimizer. Because there's no point in running an out-of-date optimizer. Those updates are free to anybody who bought the optimizer. And he's not writing it for the fun of it. They're absolutely required if you want the best optimizer possible. I don't know if I'm getting the angle wrong on this or what's going on. I don't know why that bad boy doesn't want to go in there. Let me move to the next one. Seems like I don't have something lined up or seated correctly. A lot of times a visual inspection can show you if things aren't seated fully. Yeah, I have a big gap right here. Did you hear all those clicks? That's how many I missed. All those things that were difficult that we were fighting against, those little clips, are what we're fighting against to get this back panel off. We're going to have the exact opposite fight to make sure, since I don't know where the clips are, I just visually look for any unevenness, or you could just blindly try and grab every square inch of the edges all the way around and listen for that positive click. And that's the first thing you want to check if things aren't going back together right, is you probably don't have it assembled correctly. And, you know, that would be an example. Because remember, this spun before, is it still? Still seems like something's holding this up, which is throwing me here. Oh, this is way not seated. This is way off. There's a huge gap. Wow. Wow, did I miss that? But that screw goes in fine now. So we'll put these back in. And I think all of these are the same except for just those two on the end, but I still try to make an effort out of putting them back in, and if I get too backwards, you know, probably doesn't matter. That's just my OCD. You say, well, they could probably go in just fine in any home. You're probably right, but I don't want to find out. So now this one's having a hard time going in, and I feel like I already snapped that in, so what am I missing? Oh, I missed another one. How many clips does this thing have? Yeah, so don't try and force the screw in. If it's not going in easily, you probably don't have the back on completely flat, as I've just demonstrated. That's good. That was good. I run my finger over it just to make sure I don't feel the screw sticking out, because that would mean it's not in the thread straight. I mean, that might be good enough for you to put it in crooked, but if it was my machine you were working on, I'd tell you to do it right, or I wouldn't pay you. All right, let's get this fired back up. And I'll get it back on HDMI. Let's start with some power. And HDMI. Now, in theory, I don't need a network connection for this, so I won't hook up the Ethernet. To heck with it, we don't need it. Let's jump over to the desktop here. So one of the things you can do is you type in MS info, and you notice how system information pops up. And if you look right over here, it says secure boot state. So mark on your computer, if you go to MS info, does your secure boot state it's on or off? Because the optimizer should be reflecting whatever this says. So if that says it's on, then we start the optimizer up. And the optimizer says, okay, do you want to allow this app? Yes. First thing the optimizer is going to do, you'll see here in a second, it's going to ask us if we want to update. See, now the update should be happening much sooner. Do you want to check for updates? Yes. No updates are available. And right now, it's telling us everything in black here is turned off, but you'll see Secure Boot is on, TPM is installed, and Windows is activated, right? You're seeing all this. So Secure Boot says it's off here, but it says it's on under MS Info. Then it sounds like you're running an older version. So right now we're running version, just in case you're watching this live, specifically for Mark, 25.11.5.1. So if your version is less than this number, you're running an older version. Now, if I just want to do certain things with the optimizer, so for example, maybe all I want to do is add this PC icon to the desktop. If I click that, it should happen instantly. Like these are, I want to see file extensions. When I move that, it's activating or enabling and disabling that. So what I want to do is just optimize everything here. And this will require a restart. And then that way I don't have to go through each individual little box. It'll do it all for me. I also suggested we move the disk cleanup to more of a manual task rather than an automated one. Under the tasks, tasks on demand on the right side of the app, as well as the driver backup. I don't think that should be run every single time you run the optimizer. And so Nick and I are kind of experimenting with that. And I think we came to a conclusion that we were keeping the disk cleanup, but not PC Manager. You'll have to do that manually. And I think, I'm not sure, because Nick is still working on this, and I'm trying to remember. We've been talking about so many little changes, and I'm not putting my foot down on a lot of these. I'm just making suggestions and kind of saying, okay, well, we got to kind of base it on user feedback. And I thought we were going to take disk cleanup out of it, but or make it a manually run task. Now I can't remember, but that's all right. I'm fine with it either way. It's just running this once a year is probably enough. You don't need to run this every single time the app runs. Let me get back over to the chat room while we're waiting here. Ben Laird said, I just ran the optimizer on my laptop. Said secure boot was off, and checking secure boot was off. And that's what it's supposed to do, is draw your attention to it, right? It cannot turn secure boot on for you. You're going to need to go into your BIOS and do that. So a lot of people, they don't know. And that's the part of the optimizer's job, is to give you your SID, your Windows version, all the stuff people often can't answer, or they believe it's one way, but they're not exactly sure. So the optimizer verifies the current status of things that might be important to you. So if secure boot is important to you, and the optimizer is telling you it's off and you don't like that, then change it. It doesn't matter to me if secure boot is on or not. It's just important that you understand and are aware of the current state. If you're okay with that state, so am I. Looking to see if I got any response from Mark. Craig Casabona with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Craig. Sometimes I find if I move the mouse around during this process, it's a Windows thing. It's been going on since Windows 7. It's like it'll sit here and then you move the mouse and suddenly it's done. But this is our first Windows update cleanup after doing all the Windows updates that we've done. So I imagine it's clearing a few gigs of space there. My friend Buster's going to bed. Hey, thanks for hanging out, Buster. Always good to see you, my friend. There's our restart taking place. So let's go back over to camera 1 in the meantime. Mark Leibowitz said he's taken to providing an icon that runs a batch script to reconnect the shared drives. I named it Fix My Y and Z. Yeah, I mean the net share command. You could totally do that. I don't have this problem very often. Most of the time it's when a new computer is being set up. Because I would start having a discussion with the clients. If they're disconnecting their map drives, I want to know what they're doing. Because it means they're probably making other changes that affect or potentially can affect the entire integrity of the entire network and other employees' ability to do what they need to do. Everybody has to play by the same rules. And if somebody is not playing by the rules, I got to talk to the owner of the company and say, what do you want to do about this? And then given that guidance, we march forward. If that means I need to just put up with it and just put an icon on, I mean, it's not an acceptable answer, but if that's what the owner wants, that's what we'll do. What I'd rather do is say, whatever this thing is you're doing, you need to stop doing it because you're creating service calls that don't need to be created. These drives don't drop off by themselves. And it's not happening to anybody else but you. So that tells me you're doing something. So if you don't know what you're doing, then what we're going to need to do is put some monitoring software on your computer so we can, if you don't know what it is, we'll see what it is. So, and it's not there to belittle them or punish them, it's to train them. Okay, so I got a message now. Optimizations were applied. PC Manager cannot be installed. You want to install? No. The problem is, is I can't check for updates with the optimizer if I don't have the network plugged in. And it just occurred to me now that when I check for updates, it feels like I'm using an older version of the optimizer. I feel like he's updated it since this version. So let me just verify that. But in order to check for updates, we have to be connected to the network. And now that I've discovered this accidentally, it's another. This is what makes software bulky and complex, right? Is boneheaded users like myself going, hey, the check for updates said I had the latest version. And then when he asked me what version, like, why do these companies always have to ask for this? Because of this. That version that I just told you was the latest, I might have been completely wrong. So now that we're connected to the network, let's just verify and check for updates again. I'll bet you this is an older version. I'll bet you. And then that's a Carey problem, right? That requires training and education. Do I want to check for updates? Yes. There is a new version, 2.5.11.12.0. See, that's what I should have been using to get-go. And silly me, I wasn't connected to the network, so the update said there were no updates available. What it should have said is there's no network connection. So I'm going to have Nick add that. Now notice the first thing it does now, instead of optimizing, the first thing the new version does is it checks for updates first before it does anything else. I asked Nick to move that to the beginning. And then instead of saying no updates are available and vanishing, it waits for the user to acknowledge you've seen the message and click OK. Now, there may be some changes to the layout a little bit, and this is the current latest version. But you'll notice pretty much none of the settings are changing. It's just how we're applying the settings. So if I go back and rerun this again, and it'll say, do you want to check for updates right away instead of making me wait? Then it says no updates are available. In order to prevent this from happening to me again, I need to grab my flash drive and replace the copy of it. Otherwise, I'll be repeating this over and over again. There's no sense keeping old versions of the optimizer. If you have any old versions, I strongly encourage you to delete them, because if you want to just hoard them, you've got, it's like you're holding on to incomplete puzzles, and it'll never get any better. That's what the new version does. So for you to hold on to this old obsolete stuff is only going to come back and bite you on the butt. So if you have copies of it, make sure you update all your copies with the most recent update in order to have the best experience and not go through what I just went through. Because let's face it, if it happens to me, then it can happen to you. So I'm just going to drag this over. It should ask me if I want to replace. Why does it say driver backup? Let's just right click, copy, paste, replace the file. That way you just have one version and you have consistency. So there's the Windows 10 optimizer, the Windows 11 optimizer. And you'll see they're still really, really small. You're looking at 2.9 megs on the Windows 11 and just about half of that on the Windows 10. So value for dollar, the Windows 11 optimizer does a lot more. On the other hand, Windows 11's got a lot of differences to it that I personally want to disable or turn off. So in addition to the ones that were on Windows 10, like drive indexing and things like that, we have things like quick machine recovery and such that we want to make sure are turned on, and disable Windows recall, all these verifications. But that's why up here it says system information. There's nothing really you can change up here. This is just for your information. If you're not a technician, this can probably just be ignored if you don't know what this stuff means. And then tasks on demand would be disk cleanup, driver backup. We want to put PC Manager on here. We just click this button, and at that point, it says, hey, you can't do it automatically. Do you want to just go to the Microsoft Store and get it? That's how Microsoft really wants you to get it. So that's not on Nick. That's on Microsoft kind of restricting it. So automating some of these things is complicated because in the European Union, Microsoft PC Manager is not allowed because it doesn't accommodate their privacy requirements. And so if you're in the European Union, guess what? You can't have PC Manager unless you change the region settings of your computer. So if you were in the European Union and you wanted to download PC Manager because you did not agree with the European Union, you would just type in region and hit enter, and it should take you right to your region settings and change your, let's see, that's not the language. Is it under additional? I thought that's how you do it, but let's do a quick search. How to change region in Windows 11. Oh, I've disabled web search on the start menu. I don't want to be able to search the web. That's an option on the optimizer because it was driving me crazy. I'm looking for a system utility down here. If I'm looking for a search, then I'll open up the browser. But that's an option you can turn off as well if you don't like it. So let's do, we got the wrong time zone. Let's right click and adjust date and time. And then we'll set time zone automatically, and that should set us. If it doesn't take effect right away, we can turn that off and back on again. And now you'll see the date and the time have changed. And that's from a Windows default install. Now, go back to region. It says United States. You should be able to change your region here, I think. Country or region. So you can change your country or region under time and language and region settings in the settings area of your computer. Set it to United States, then you can download PC Manager in the European Union. Once it's installed, then you can go back and put it back to your actual region. It's the easiest workaround, but we're not going to do that. That's something you have to do if you want it. Because we don't want the European Union to come after us. No, thank you. Kirshy's saying he expected a smoother experience from Nimo. Yeah, and I don't blame you. I expect a smoother experience from Nimo than what you've described. He says he'll try calling them on Monday. So, yeah, give them a call. And if you want to follow up with us, we'd love to hear back about how this is resolved. Or if it still remains an, if it remains an issue, we're happy to get involved on your behalf. And that's how you can reach us if you want to share your experience with us, or if you'd like a little assistance. Either way, certainly welcome. We love to hear from you. And that's our email address if you want to reach out. All right, guys, what are we at? A little over 2.5 hours on today's broadcast. So I think that'll wrap it up for me for today with my optimizer now updated on my flash drive. That should help with things going smoother in the future. And there will be more updates between now and the end of the year as Nick continues to fine tune and polish and take your feedback under consideration for additional features or options, okay? So, if you're looking for like a completely finished product, don't buy the optimizer yet. It's 99% there, but that last 1% could be the difference between amazing and okay. Right now, I mean, I'm biased. I think it's amazing, but It's going to get better. And if you want to wait till after the first of the year to buy it, it'll be available. And it'll be newer than what I'm showing you today. However, if you want it right now, it functions, it works perfectly fine. If you find any bugs with it, don't be surprised. Don't be that surprised. Let us know. We'll address it and make sure that that becomes a better product as a result. And but price is the same either way if you want to get it today, and it should work 100% for you. But just in case it doesn't, my excuse right now is it's still a newborn infant, hasn't even opened its eyes yet. All right, so in fairness, we'll make sure that we hear you, we're able to replicate and address any issues, and that'll be a better experience for everyone. And if you think that's trouble, then don't buy it yet. That's it. Mark Gaines says, Carey, I just checked. Indeed, Secure Boot was off on his computer, and he just enabled it, and now it's on. And that's what the optimizer is set to do, raise awareness. Again, it's not necessarily recommending Secure Boot. That's for you to decide. But if you thought it was on this whole time, then the optimizer just earned its money by making you aware that it wasn't. That's the way I see it. So thank you for following up with that, Mark. Glad you got it sorted. Gerhard Huff said of my older Z490i Aorus, the Windows Optimizer does not detect Secure Boot. Well, it doesn't really matter what the optimizer detects. It depends on what your Windows is seeing. So Gerhard, you want to type in MS info as I showed you and see what your Secure Boot state is. If your Secure Boot state shows as off, you will have to go into the BIOS, change it from user to custom, and then restore the default keys, save and exit, and then Secure Boot should be on and the optimizer should report it as on. If that's important to you, it's not a requirement. It's just a personal preference at this point. Supreme Nerd wants to know if you can still use the Windows 10 optimizer or should you update? Well, the Windows 10 optimizer does work on Windows 11, continues to work on Windows 10. It just doesn't do near as much as the new Windows 11 optimizer does. And the Windows 11 optimizer does not work on Windows 10. So yes, the Windows 10 does work as the Windows 10 optimizer to this very day. But if you want the full set of features of the modern optimizer on a modern operating system, then you should upgrade. But there's no reason you have to. It's just an individual choice. I'm trying to download the PC Manager, and it looks like the download failed, which I've never seen that happen before. And normally this is a pretty quick download unless I'm live on camera. For some reason, Microsoft is really slow, but that's all on Microsoft. It's not on the laptop. It's not on the optimizer. All right, guys, with that. Also, Gerhard, just Google how to enable Secure Boot on Aorus Z490, and you'll find even Copilot or even YouTube videos that walk you through it as well. So depending on your level of how comfortable you are with tech, you may not need that level of walkthrough. But on the other hand, if you do, it's there. Let me just check on this here. Is it ready? Automatically start when I sign in, yes. Set Smart Boost to on. Go back home. Hit the boost button. Hit the disk cleanup button. Hit the proceed button. That's all I do. Now there's a lot of other, there's a toolbox and apps and setting. I don't get into any of that. You can. I don't. That's all I use it for. I don't see any other questions, so I think that's going to wrap it up for today. John Williams says, thanks, Carey and Mara, for the live stream today. That's a nice laptop. Thank you, John. Yeah, I think, you know, when you're looking at the price and you're looking for what you're getting, that's a lot of laptop for the money. And it's pretty much what I've said about every single Nimo laptop we've seen. So this continues to hit consistently with value and build quality, ease of getting into it, ease of working on it. And yeah, just be aware of the whole single channel, dual channel, 1M.2. It does say there's only 1M.2 on the webpage, in all fairness. It tells you right there. It's not like they're hiding it. But with regards to the Wi-Fi being soldered on, you know, you can go and buy a USB Wi-Fi 7 adapter if that's important to you and just plug it into one of the USB ports. It's not like you got to open up a computer to change Wi-Fi out. USB is always an option. You know, if this keyboard died out of warranty, it'd be cheaper for you to just buy a USB keyboard and be done with it than it would to pay for a repair. So these are things to keep in mind with computers these days. That USB port almost always has every accessory you could ever want, including a boot drive if need be. All right, that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank our friends Mark Gaines and Buster, of course, for their generosity and support throughout tonight's show, as well as those super chats and membership renewals that we got from, so many people. We got $20 from Craig Casabona, a euro from our friend Peter in the Netherlands, our friend Patrick Manny, renewed membership today, Tom Jackson, thank you for your super chat. Ron Barnish, thank you for your membership renewal, along with 3D Everything and Gregory Howard. It's great to see everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. We are finally starting to get down into the lower 80s and mid 70 degree temperature days here in Phoenix. It's taken until mid-November, but it looks like this coming week we might see some rain and some cooler temps. Please, for the love of all that's holy, stop this heat wave. It's been in the mid 80s all week. It's the middle of November, and you live in a desert. Shut up. Thanks to Mara, of course, for all the work she does behind the scenes doing our channel administration, the thumbnails. Look at that thumbnail today. The video description, the links. Thank you. Okay. Answering your emails. All the work that gets done behind the scenes, including working with the great folks at Nimo to arrange for having the laptop sent for review. So my attention can be focused on more in front of the camera stuff. And as much as possible, I try and offload a lot of the behind the camera stuff to her. She's much better at it than me. If you want more information, again, NimoPC.com is their website. I want to remind you, those Windows license keys and Office license keys, they're available whenever you're ready to buy. You don't have to rush out and get them today. That coupon code is Carey. It's always been Carey. It's not changed. It's 25% off. It's always 6 months of support after the purchase. And don't feel any pressure to run out and get it. They're a regular supporter here. And be sure that when it comes to, it's not like we need keys that often, but when you need keys and you want to get it done once and you don't want to worry about having buyer's remorse, get it from a reputable seller. It's not easy to find reputable sellers online for Windows software keys these days. So I've done all that research for you. Well, really, I did it for myself because I need to sell my customers legitimate license keys. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine if I was doing that little activation hack just to earn a little bit of money? And all those computers I've sold in the last 4 years with Windows 11 all suddenly became unactivated on the same day when Microsoft released this update. Guess who's getting the phone call? Guess who's expected to fix it at no additional cost? And you might say, well, licenses are pretty inexpensive. Yeah, but what if it's 45 customers calling you and those licenses are 20 bucks a piece? Now, not only am I busy doing work I'm not getting paid for, but I have to pay to do it right, which is how it should have been to begin with. My customers will never have that problem. because I do it right. If you want to go down that road and you want to mess around with hacks, I'm not here to stop you, but I won't encourage it. And I want nothing to do with helping you resolve the problems you have because you made a bad decision. That's also a learning process. Some of us need to go through that in order to learn, and I accept that. If that's the path you need to go down that path without me. And when you get tired of that and you're like, look, I just want to be done with this, follow what I'm suggesting and move on. All righty. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. I enjoyed all your questions and interaction. Good to see Matt Soloff there from Sweden. Andy says thank you, Carey and Mara. Scott saying thank you. And Johnny Weld. Right on. Thank you guys for hanging out. Remember, there's also a lot of other variety of laptops with Nimo, and they're already starting their Black Friday specials now. Just an FYI. We're seeing an early jump on these Black Friday specials this year. We're still 2 weeks away from Black Friday, and yet I'm getting all kinds of emails in my inbox. Early Black Friday specials. The question is, if you decide to wait, will they be sold out by then? Will the price be any different? Do you think it'll be cheaper if you wait? I have no idea. So choose wisely, Grasshopper. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you to all the members for making these videos possible, along with Nimo, Mara, and each and every one of you that interact with us during the video. You have no idea what that means to me. I enjoy having your company. I look forward to seeing you again Sunday at the usual time. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. That is backwards. That's 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, like it always is. Oh, it looks like we got another update just while I'm talking. Perfect timing. See you all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.